Chapter 197. In order to cooperate with the development of Linji Mountain, the clan established the General Affairs Division in advance, which was temporarily managed by the first elder. They were responsible for the task of migrating the clansmen to Linji Mountain. The General Affairs Division naturally had to send someone to arrange the migration of the ordinary clansmen. The person who came was 16th Uncle Wang Shoutai. He was at the 7th level of Qi refinement and was in charge of the General Affairs Division. His cultivation talent was average and he didn't have any special skills. He was diligent in his work and had never made any contributions or mistakes. In the clan, there were many clansmen like 16th Uncle. In the past, they were usually in charge of some of the clan's less important businesses. With a meager monthly allowance, they could marry a few wives and concubines. If they were lucky, they could even have cultivator descendants. After the clan's reform, such clansmen were arranged to be in positions that didn't require strong personal ability, but needed to be sincere and steady. For example, the General Affairs Division only needed to follow the plans set by the elders and work step by step. There were people taking care of all aspects of Linji Mountain, so Wang Daoyuan didn't need to worry at all. What he needed to do was to repel the demon beasts that came to cause trouble. In fact, he didn't need to care about this matter. In order to complete its winemaking mission as soon as possible, the Thunder Ape ran to the surrounding spirit veins to search for the ingredients needed for winemaking. The key was that the other spirit veins were also occupied by demon beasts. Would the other demon beasts be happy if the Thunder Ape ran to other spirit veins? Every time the Thunder Ape went to a spirit vein, it would beat up the demon beasts that occupied it and then plunder the spiritual items. Rank 1 demon beasts weren't spared either. Wang Daoxing and Wang Daoyin used the nearby rank 1 demon beasts to practice. The demon beasts within 300 miles of Linji Mountain were as obedient as their grandchildren. Not to mention that Linji Mountain was looking for trouble, they were already secretly happy that the people of Linji Mountain didn't find trouble with them. Before subduing the Thunder Ape, Yun-Yi was the one who caused the most trouble. Now that she had the Thunder Ape, Yun-Yi knew that she couldn't beat it, so she obediently did the transportation work. At the same time, she earned some rations. She needed 20 kilograms of roasted meat for every 1,000 miles. It grew up eating roasted meat and didn't like eating raw meat. It also had high requirements for the taste of roasted meat. Since he didn't need to care about anything, Wang Daoyuan focused his energy on improving his cultivation. After spending more than 3 years in Linji Mountain, his cultivation had reached the 2nd level of foundation establishment, and he was not far from the 3rd level. For most foundation establishment cultivators, even if they didn't consider minor bottlenecks, it would still take them 7 to 8 years to break through one level of cultivation. As a Penta Spirit Veins cultivator, it was not easy for him to have such a cultivation speed, even if he used a lot of resources. Over the past 3 years, he had mainly focused on cultivation, and his talisman crafting and array formation skills had also improved. He had already become a level 2 Spirit Talisman Master and a level 2 Array Master. In terms of alchemy, the 2nd generation Blood Jade Ginseng had matured, and there were still 2 true essence fruits left. 2 cauldrons of foundation establishment pills produced 10 pills. The success rate had reached 50%. It had already reached the level of being able to refine Tier 3 medicinal pills. However, the Wang clan did not have the inheritance of a Tier 3 alchemist, and he did not have any Tier 3 spirit herbs, so he naturally could not refine them. In 3 years, more than 80 mu of spiritual fields had been opened up on Linji Mountain. The spiritual fields owned by the clan had almost doubled. There were also more than a dozen households, a total of more than 100 ordinary clansmen, who had settled down here. They had opened up more than 300 mu of ordinary farmland on the northern mountain of Linji Plains. His 17th brother, Wang Daoheng, was still studying the Spirit Peach Dews distiller's yeast. Because there was no golden jade peach, he couldn't be sure if the distiller's yeast recipe was correct. The Thunder Ape's mission to brew wine was still incomplete. It used to live in the depths of the sky/mountain range, where the variety of spiritual plants was much richer than outside. Many of the spiritual plants used to brew its wine could not be found outside. Wang Daoyuan had spent 3 years of leisure on Linji Mountain. His leisure days had come to an end. The Netherworld Sex Foundation Establishment Pill Auction, which was fixed once every 60 years, was about to begin. To show that they no longer had any foundation establishment pills, the Wang family had to bid for one and then give it to Wang Daoxing. In order to show that they were taking it seriously, The Wang family had to send at least 2 or 3 foundation establishment cultivators. Great-grandfather and 5th great-uncle did not care about family affairs. 8th uncle, 9th aunt, and 2nd brother had reached foundation establishment relatively late. They were still at the first level of foundation establishment, so they were not intimidating. It would be best if he went with the 12th uncle. Also, Wang Daoxing had to be present. Wang Daoyuan had to bring Wang Daoxing and Yunyi away from Linji Mountain. With the Thunder Ape guarding this place, it was not a big problem. To be safe, he handed the E-Wood Withering Flourishing Array to 5th brother Wang Xueqi to guard. He also left a few superior grade level 2 spiritual talismans for 5th brother and Dao Yin. Without him around, the Thunder Ape would not listen to anyone. If the Thunder Ape went out to play and there were demonic beasts eyeing Linji Mountain, having a few superior grade level 2 spiritual talismans would be an extra layer of insurance. After settling the affairs of Linji Mountain, Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoxing rode Yunyi back to Jade Spring Peak. After leaving Linji Mountain for less than 5 minutes, Yunyi flew to Black Rock Peak. Black Rock Peak was about 3,000 feet tall. It was directly east of Jade Spring Peak and was only 20 to 30 miles away from the edge of the sky/mountain range. There was a small middle-grade level 1 spiritual vein on the peak. The entire mountain was covered in black rocks and there were very few trees. There was no suitable place to open up spiritual fields, only suitable for quarrying. It was also too close to the edge of the sky/mountain range and was often harassed by demonic beasts. It was very difficult to develop, so it had always been empty here. Yunyi flew over Black Rock Peak. The peak of Black Rock Peak was only 60 feet away from Yunyi. Just as she flew to Black Rock Peak, a black sword beam flew out from Black Rock Peak. Wang Daoyuan wanted to develop Black Rock Peak, so he had been using his divine sense to scan the entire mountain. The person who launched the sneak attack was good at hiding. His divine sense was also scanning the entire mountain, so he did not discover the person who launched the sneak attack in advance. However, when the person was about to attack, there was an obvious fluctuation of spiritual power, which was immediately detected by him. Wang Daoyuan could be considered a veteran. Under such circumstances, it was simply too late to instruct Yunyi to dodge. He could only take this attack head-on. He instantly took out 2 superior grade level 2 earth armor talismans that he carried with him and stuck them on Yunyi. The enemy was unprepared. It was already too late for him to use a powerful spell. He could only use the Golden Saber technique to attack the Black Sword Beam. Soon, the Black Sword Beam collided with the Golden Saber technique. The Golden Saber technique was directly broken without even a sound. After the Black Sword Beam broke the Golden Saber technique, it attacked Yunyi's abdomen. Fortunately, there were 2 layers of superior grade level 2 earth armor talismans protecting her. The Black Sword Beam only dimmed the first layer of earth armor. Yunyi cried out in pain. It was not a big deal. Wang Daoyuan urged Yunyi to fly forward quickly, further away from Black Rock Peak. Only when they were more than 300 feet away from Black Rock Peak did he let Yunyi stop. The person who launched the sneak attack could not break the superior grade level 2 earth armor talisman. He should only be a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. This place was only about 100 miles away from Linji Mountain. With such a person who was good at sneak attacks, the safety of Linji Mountain was not guaranteed. He had to find a way to get rid of this person. Taking out the shocking wind sword, he left Yunyi's back and flew into the air. He ordered Yunyi to fly 10,000 feet high and return to Jade Spring Peak with Wang Daoxing. There were no tall mountains nearby. Flying high in the sky, he was not afraid of being attacked. With Yunyi's speed, flying at full speed, a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator would not be able to catch up. As long as it was not a sneak attack, even if there were assassins chasing after it, they would not be able to do anything to it. He also told Wang Daoxing, "No need to get anyone to save me. The other party's strength is not enough to take me down." After Yunyi flew far away with Wang Daoxing, he shouted towards the top of Black Rock Peak, "Sneaky scoundrel. His cultivation is clearly above mine, but he only dares to launch sneak attacks and does not dare to fight me head-on. Could it be another one of Blood Shadow's bugs?" Hearing this, a trace of spiritual energy fluctuation appeared in the pile of rocks below. A voice sounded, "You know Blood Shadow?" Chapter 198. Wang Daoyuan replied, "I've dealt with them a few times and they're all the same as you. They're clearly so much stronger than me, but they don't dare to fight me head-on. Who else could it be other than Blood Shadow? The ambusher said, "You're not Blood Shadow's employer and you know about them. You're dead for sure." A man in black flew out from Black Rock Peak on his sword. He was wearing a long black cloak. He even wore a hat on top of the cloak that covered his face. Even the flying sword under his feet was black. His cloak could even block out divine sense. No wonder he couldn't find him when he was scouting Black Rock Peak earlier. With this outfit, it was really not easy to find him hiding on Black Rock Peak that was filled with black rocks. Wang Daoyuan used the heaven-peering technique to check on this man in black, and found that he was at Foundation Establishment Level 5. Although Blood Shadow's people were all top-notch in ambushes and their ability to fight head-on was like child's play. But the opponent was a mid-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator after all. He couldn't let his guard down. The man in black flew towards him on his sword. He first used 2 superior grade 2 earth armor talismans on himself, and then took out the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip. When the man in black was close enough, he lashed out with the whip. The man in black controlled the flying sword under his feet and released a black sword light. The force from Wang Daoyuan's whip collided with the black sword light and both dissipated. Wang Daoyuan struck out 3 times in a row, frightening the black-clothed man. He couldn't block such a fast attack. The man in black hurriedly dodged the force and turned to fly towards Black Rock Peak. The man in black's sword was not as fast as his wind shock sword. As expected, Blood Shadow's people were still as weak in head-on fights as before. The man in black fled to Black Rock Peak and used the huge rocks to hide. Wang Daoyuan's 5 dragon soul-chasing whip really couldn't do anything to him. With 2 layers of earth armor on him, the man in black couldn't kill him in one blow. He could take his time to play with him. He caught a peak chi refinement cultivator alive earlier, but he knew too little. This mid-stage Foundation Establishment assassin had some status in Blood Shadow and should be able to get some secret information. If he could capture him alive, he would try his best to capture him alive and refine him into a clone to spy on Blood Shadow. After Wang Daoyuan entered the Foundation Establishment realm, his chi-refining doppelgangers were no longer of much use in strengthening his spiritual sense and cultivation base. Sooner or later, he would have to replace them with Foundation Establishment doppelgangers. A middle-stage Foundation Establishment clone had a strong enough effect in nurturing a divided soul. Wang Daoyuan landed on the Black Rock Peak and used the heaven-peering technique to search for the location of the black-clothed man. It had to be said that the black-robed man's attire was really good at blocking divine sense. Under the situation where he didn't cast any spells, Wang Daoyuan could only detect him when he was more than 30 meters away from him when he used the heaven-peering technique. For a Foundation Establishment cultivator, a distance of over 10 zhong was nothing. Every time Wang Daoyuan detected him, he would sneak up on him with a sword beam and then quickly flee. His escape speed was especially fast. While Wang Daoyuan was receiving and dodging, he could use the rocks to cover himself. Without using spiritual power, he could quickly escape from Wang Daoyuan's divine sense detection range. Wang Daoyuan released the soul-chasing bees to search for the black-clothed man. However, this person seemed to have an extremely brilliant chi-concealing technique. Even the soul-chasing bees couldn't detect him. At that time, his interest was piqued. As long as he refined this black-clothed man into a clone, all the good things would be his. The stronger the enemy, the more excited he was. Of course, the premise was that he could kill the enemy. He liked the people of Blood Shadow more and more now. Other than sneak attacks, they didn't have anything else to show. This was putting the cart before the horse. They always wanted to play all kinds of tricks, hoping to achieve the goal of defeating the enemy in one blow, but neglected the ability to face the enemy head-on. Little did they know that strength was the absolute truth. Strength to meet force with force was the absolute truth. This group of people relied too much on sneak attacks, just like how he relied too much on talismans in the past. In the end, when he met Zhao Baogua, he was beaten to the point that he couldn't even take out a talisman and had to rely on the cloud escape to save his life. If this black-clothed man used martial arts to increase his strength, he might not be his match, let alone force him to not dare to show his face. He released the golden wings and observed with his naked eye in the sky. He didn't withdraw the soul-chasing bees, but released another 5,000 soul-chasing bees. There was no perfect hiding in the world. This black-clothed man had already done a good job, but there were still flaws. As long as he used spiritual power, he couldn't hide from his divine sense. The black-clothed man's outfit perfectly blended with the black rocks of Black Rock Peak. It was extremely difficult to discover with the naked eye. If he didn't move, the golden wings couldn't find him. However, as long as he dared to move, he definitely couldn't hide from the golden wings' eyes. Even if he didn't move, with more than 5,000 soul-chasing bees slowly searching, how could they not find him? The soul-chasing bees quickly surrounded the entire mountain, carefully searching every inch of it. Wang Daoyuan also used the Golden Rock Wrestling Dragon technique. The Golden Rock Phantom flew in the air. As long as it found the black-clothed man's trace, it would directly use its feather blade to attack. The flying speed of the feather blade was faster than the force of a long whip, and it could shoot out multiple feather blades at the same time. The only drawback was that the attack range wasn't far. The effective killing range was only 70 to 80 feet, which was less than 100 feet of the long whip force. After 30 breaths, suddenly, an Earth attribute spiritual power fluctuation appeared 50 feet behind him. He controlled the Golden Rock Phantom and flew towards the place where the spiritual power fluctuation came from. He also sent out 2 feather blades. The black-clothed man's cultivation technique should be of the metal attribute. There was no trace of Earth attribute spiritual power in the sword light he sent out. At this time, the sudden appearance of Earth attribute spiritual power fluctuation was very likely to be due to the use of Earth attribute talismans, such as the Earth Escape Talisman. Wang Daoyuan used the earth-shaking technique, and a shock wave spread to the entire mountain with him as the center. There was only a scream, and the Earth attribute spiritual power fluctuation instantly disappeared. Sure enough, he was using the Earth Escape Talisman. The earth-shaking technique he obtained from Zhang Deshang was especially effective against Earth Escape. He immediately used the Cloud Escape technique and rushed to the place where the scream came from. There was a pile of ash on the ground. It should have been left behind when the Earth Escape Talisman was destroyed. There were also a few drops of blood on the ground. It should have been caused by the feather blades. Since the black-clothed man was injured, it would be easy to deal with him. He took out 20 vampiric vine seeds and used the entanglement technique. In a dozen breaths' time, the vampiric vine had grown to 20 feet long. He didn't use his divine sense to guide the attack. Instead, he used his wood attribute spiritual power to let the vampiric vine find its target. After being injured, the black-clothed man immediately tried to dodge, but he didn't dare to use his spiritual power. He could only rely on his legs to dodge, and he also had to use the rocks to block the golden rock's vision. He couldn't run far. The vampiric vine quickly followed the path he took. After a few breaths' time, he saw a black-clothed man jump out from a crack in the rocks. The black-clothed man sent out several sword lights, cutting down many vampiric vine. After the vampiric vines were cut down, it quickly grew more branches and continued to attack the black-clothed man. The golden rock didn't stay idle either. It continuously attacked the black-clothed man with its feather blades. At this moment, the black-clothed man already had more than 10 wounds on his body. The black-clothed man wanted to use his sword to escape, but the golden rock wing descended from the sky and aimed at his neck. The golden rock wing's innate skill was called Wing Slash. Once it was used, its wings would become as sharp as blades. Coupled with its extremely fast flying speed, it was easy to kill a Foundation Establishment cultivator who used sword kinesis flight. If the black-clothed man's neck was hit by the wing slash, his head would definitely fall to the ground. Helpless, he gave up on using his sword to escape and landed on the ground. How could the vampiric vine let go of this heaven-sent opportunity? Dozens of vines immediately wrapped around the assassin. Soon after, the soul-chasing bees swarmed over and surrounded the assassin. Chapter 199. Although the black-robed man no longer had any hope of escaping, he didn't give up. At this moment, he was surrounded by layers of vampiric vines and soul-chasing bees. However, he was still able to form a spiritual energy barrier to resist the attacks. This was a battle of attrition. Wang Daoyuan simultaneously infused more than 20 vampiric vines with his spiritual energy. The vampiric vines that had been cut down even grew more branches. In addition, he was also maintaining the golden rock's image. If this continued, he might not be able to outlast this 5th-level Foundation Establishment assassin. Wang Daoyuan didn't have any reason to waste time with him. Since he had the resources, he would use them to his advantage. He took out 3 jugs of 50-year-old scarlet blood wine from the space within his spiritual pearl and drank a few mouthfuls. In less than 40 breaths of time, His spiritual energy, which had been less than half, had recovered to 90%. He burped and sighed. I've used up too much of my spiritual energy recently. I only have 200 or 300 jugs of this wine left. Luckily, I still have 500 jugs of better quality. The black-robed man's cloak had long been torn apart, revealing his face. Originally, his eyes were shining with hope. However, after Wang Daoyuan drank a few mouthfuls of wine, the flames of hope in his heart gradually extinguished. When Wang Daoyuan said that he still had a few hundred jugs left, he completely despaired. After holding on for 100 breaths of time, the assassin's lifeless face suddenly turned sinister. Wang Daoyuan immediately became vigilant. This brat wants to fight me to the death. He stuck 2 layers of earth armor talismans on himself and infused a large amount of spiritual energy into the turtle dragon armor. A 5th-level Foundation establishment cultivator's final attack had to be taken seriously. The assassin's spiritual energy barrier fluctuated violently. Soon after, the barrier exploded, and the soul-chasing bees were sent flying by the shockwaves. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. More than 5,000 soul-chasing bees would take more than 10 days to recover. These ordinary soul-chasing bees were only of the 1st grade and couldn't withstand the shockwaves of the explosion. However, the vampiric vines didn't care. Without the obstruction of the barrier, they directly wrapped around the assassin's body. The thorns on the vines had already pierced through his skin. The assassin felt that he had lost all feeling in his hands and feet, and even the circulation of his spirit energy had slowed down. Wang Daoyuan originally thought that this was the end, but he didn't expect that the assassin's flying sword, carrying intense spirit energy fluctuations, would drill through the gaps between the vines and fly towards him. Back then, when he was fighting with Zhao Baogua, he was careless and did not dodge. He was almost sent away by 5 consecutive whips. Since then, whenever he fought with others, he would always remain vigilant until his opponent was completely dead. This time was no exception. His divine sense was locked onto his opponent from beginning to end. The moment the flying sword flew out, he immediately used the cloud mist escape and dodged to the side, flashing 300 feet away. Then, he controlled the Golden Rock's phantom to continuously use its feather blades to attack the flying swords. After he dodged, the flying sword turned around and continued to chase after him. Under the attack of the feather blade, the flying sword was on the verge of collapse. The assassin was already powerless from the bloodthirsty vine's poison, unable to circulate his spiritual energy. Losing too much blood made it hard for him to stay conscious, and his soul consciousness was getting weaker and weaker. Once he fainted, the flying sword would completely lose control. At this moment, the flying sword was still more than 30 feet away from Wang Daoyuan when it suddenly shone brightly. Wang Daoyuan once again used the cloud mist escape and dodged in the direction the flying sword was pointing at. The light on the flying sword condensed into a giant sword phantom that was more than 30 feet long and 3 feet wide. It slashed down in the direction Wang Daoyuan had previously been. This seemed to be a sword cultivator's move, but this assassin could not possibly be a sword cultivator. Sword cultivators were famous for being one-track minded. They were particular about breaking all techniques with a single sword and disdained to play tricks and schemes. No matter how talented those bastards from Blood Shadow were, they would not be able to achieve anything by walking the path of a sword cultivator. He reckoned that this assassin must have obtained an incomplete sword cultivator legacy somewhere and practiced this move. Wang Daoyuan had already used the cloud mist escape to dodge. He would not be injured in the slightest by this sword strike. However, this was a rare opportunity to experience the strength of a sword cultivator. How could he miss it? He controlled the Golden Rock's phantom to fly in the direction of the giant sword phantom. He aimed at the giant sword phantom and released all of his feathered blades. After blocking more than 100 feathered blades, the giant sword was shattered. The remaining feathered blades all missed. The power was unexpectedly weak, but looking at the appearance of the giant sword phantom, it should have destroyed all of the feathered blades before perishing together with the Golden Rock's phantom. He did not expect that it would be over just like that. It seemed that this move had consumed a lot of energy. Otherwise, he would not have waited until he was at the brink of death. This move was a little useless. Its speed was too slow, and the probability of hitting someone was not high. The assassin had already fainted due to excessive blood loss. Wang Daoyuan withdrew the Golden Rock's phantom and kept all of the soul-chasing bees back into the spiritual pearl. He used his divine sense to stop the vampiric vine's attack and stuck a second-grade soul-subduing talisman on the assassin. Then, he threw both the assassin and the vampiric vine into the spiritual pearl. After cleaning up the traces on Black Boulder Peak, he flew back to Jade Spring Peak. After greeting the Great Elder, he returned to the cave and prepared to refine the assassin into a clone. After all, the assassin was at the 5th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. His divine sense cultivation might be higher than his. If he rashly used the soul-splitting blade, he might hurt himself instead. It would be safer to use the soul-extinguishing bell to shake his soul half to death first before using the soul-splitting blade. Before that, he should first cut out a part of his soul and nourish it. He cut out about 7% of his soul. A Foundation Establishment clone's original soul was stronger and could accommodate more parts of his soul. The more divided souls he could sever, the more his avatar could nurture the divided souls. In the future, when he took back the divided souls, his divine sense cultivation would improve even more. However, the damage to his soul would also be greater. Wang Daoyuan used more than 10 days to stabilize the injuries to his soul. After the soul was nourished, he used the earthwall technique to create 2 hemispherical covers to cover himself. He took out the assassin from the spiritual pearl and used the soul-extinguishing bell to injure his soul. With the 2 covers, the clansmen outside would not be hurt by the soul-extinguishing bell. The outside world could only hear a weak bell sound. Only a few Foundation Establishment realm cultivators could hear that the bell sound was not simple. The Qi Refinement realm cultivators did not feel anything. At this time, the assassin was already foaming at the mouth from the shock. He immediately used the soul-splitting blade to break into the assassin's sea of consciousness and disperse his soul. Then, the part of his soul entered the assassin's sea of consciousness and used the power of the soul-splitting blade to reform his soul. After finishing, he felt that something was wrong, but he could not tell what the problem was. A day later, the part of his soul in the space had completely controlled the clone. At this time, Wang Daoyuan realized where the problem was. All the clones began to have a trace of self-awareness. The previous clones were like another him and were completely connected to the main body. But now, the clones had their own thoughts and gave him a strange feeling. They could not be completely connected. Even if this bit of self-awareness was insignificant, it was still a hidden danger. If the self-awareness grew stronger, the clone would want to rebel and destroy the part of his soul. Then he would be finished. He could not determine the reason why the clones had developed self-awareness. In order to reduce the risk of the clones causing trouble, he first gave up on the clones that had no value. Now that he had 4 Qi refinement clones, Qi Yun's remaining value had not been squeezed dry. Zhao Baogua's cultivation method was similar to his, so he could be used as a test subject to improve his spells in the future. Liang Zixing could still refine rank 1 pills. Only Shadow Fox was useless. After directly taking back the part of the soul in Shadow Fox's sea of consciousness and merging it with the main soul, Wang Daoyuan discovered that the remaining 4 clones had lost their self-awareness. At this time, the total amount of the part of the soul in all the clones was 1/10 of his complete soul, compared to 11% before. He tried to separate 1/1000th of his soul and merge it with Shadow Fox's sea of consciousness again. The clones once again developed self-awareness, but it was much weaker than before. This seemed to be a problem with the cultivation method. When the total amount of the part of the soul exceeded 1/10 of the complete soul, the clone would develop self-awareness. Chapter 200. If there were too many divided souls, it would cause the clone to lose control. If he wanted to have more clones, he would need to divide each divided soul into smaller parts. However, if there were too few divided souls, the clone's thinking ability would also be limited. After the divided soul, which accounted for 1% of the complete main soul, merged into the clone would not be much different from a normal person. It could cultivate and practice the various arts of cultivation. If the divided soul was less than 1%, the clone's intelligence would plummet. There was no need to think about cultivation. No wonder the 10,000 corpse spiritual master chose to go down the path of refining corpses. Refining corpses only needed to be obedient and did not require too much intelligence. The requirements for the divided soul were much lower, and it could control more refined corpses at the same time. To Wang Daoyuan, the clone's greatest use was to help look after the spiritual pearl space and improve his divine sense cultivation. It was not worth risking losing the divided soul to let the clone fight. After the divided soul took control of the clone, it began to pry into its memories. From the memories of the assassin's clone, it learned that the assassin's name was Wu Yi. He was originally an itinerant cultivator in the northern part of Mount Huyen. By chance, he became an outer member of the Blood Shadow Mountain's Northern Division. Wu Yi's talent was not bad. Relying on the resources he obtained as an assassin, his cultivation quickly reached the peak of qi refinement. After that, he succeeded in building his foundation without the help of a foundation establishment pill. The Blood Shadow Mountain's Northern Division took him in as an inner member. Therefore, Wu Yi knew more about Blood Shadow than Shadow Fox. Blood Shadow was an underground organization that covered the entire Beiyuan Xueqi. It was said that it had existed long before the various countries fought for hegemony. It was a force that had existed for at least 10,000 years. Blood Shadow had always been in the business of killing people for rewards. In order to keep it a secret, they did not have any external communication organizations. They also never accepted other people's initiative to hire them. Instead, they took the initiative to find employers. Blood Shadow relied on the intelligence network that covered the entire cultivation world to find people who needed Blood Shadow's help and slowly sound them out. If the other party had no intention of hiring someone to kill, then they would not contact them. If the other party was interested, then they would reveal some of Blood Shadow's strength. Moreover, the employer was required not to reveal Blood Shadow to anyone. If the information about Blood Shadow was leaked, the person who leaked it and the insider would be hunted down by Blood Shadow. Blood Shadow's headquarters had an organization called Blood Wolves that was responsible for getting rid of leakers. Unlike the ordinary Blood Shadow assassins who were extremely weak in head-on fights of magical powers, the Blood Wolves were all extremely good at fights of magical powers. Killing cultivators of the same level was a piece of cake. Blood Shadow was able to exist for such a long time by relying on such a strict method of secrecy. However, it did not have much of a reputation outside. The reason why Wu Yi acted this time was also because someone wanted to kill the people of the Wang family. The price offered by the employer was very high. He wanted 50,000 spirit stones to get rid of Wang Shui and 20,000 spirit stones to get rid of Wang Daoyuan. This mission was originally given to the Qingli branch. Unfortunately, none of the Qingli branch's foundation establishment assassins dared to accept it. The employer wanted to use 50,000 spirit stones to hire the #1 assassin of the Shanbei division, Yu Lang. Yu Lang was already at the peak of the foundation establishment stage and had been preparing to open his Violet Palace all these years. At the Blood Shadow Sect's headquarters, he could exchange it for the Yin Yang Purple Jade. However, Quiet Wolf did not have enough spirit stones. Logically speaking, 50,000 spirit stones was a very high price to pay for a third-level foundation establishment cultivator. However, Yu Lang had some understanding of the Wang family. No one in the Qingli branch dared to make a move. Naturally, he would want more of such business. He wanted 150,000 spirit stones before he was willing to act. The employer was only willing to pay 70,000 spirit stones at most. Although Yu Lang was unwilling to act, Wu Yi was tempted. However, he did not have the guts to touch Wang Shui. From the intelligence, he knew that Wang Daoyuan was a cultivator who had just entered the foundation establishment stage. He was only at the 5th level of the foundation establishment stage. Wouldn't it be easy for him to kill someone who had just entered the foundation establishment stage? These 20,000 spirit stones were picked up for free. He accepted the mission and found out that Wang Daoyuan was at Linji Mountain. When he arrived at Linji Mountain, he saw the array, vine walls and fierce demonic beasts. He did not dare to make a move. After a period of observation, he found out that Yun Yi often traveled between the Jade Spring Mountain and Linji Mountain. Every time, she would pass by the Black Rock Mountain. Thus, he had been lying in wait at the Black Rock Mountain. After waiting for Wang Daoyuan to leave Linji Mountain, he did not expect that he would be caught in the middle. Wu Yi's cultivation technique was the most common metal sharp art. The spells that he had learned were also common spells. Among the things that he had learned, the only thing that interested Wang Daoyuan was the incomplete Sword Cultivator Legacy. He had obtained this Sword Cultivator Legacy when he was on a mission. What he had obtained was not a systematic inheritance. He did not even have the sword-wielding technique of the Sword Cultivator lineage. In this incomplete inheritance, there were only 2 relatively powerful Sword Cultivator spells that could be cast by borrowing the sword and 2 relatively powerful Sword Cultivator spells. The 2 Sword Cultivator spells were the Heaven Cleaving Sword and the 10,000 Sword Art. The Heaven Cleaving Sword was the move that Wu Yi had risked his life to use. The 10,000 Sword Art was to condense many flying sword phantoms to attack the enemy. Perhaps it was because he lacked the sword-wielding technique that was unique to sword cultivators, The power of these two spells was very ordinary. However, when he went out in the future, it was quite suitable for him to pretend to be a sword cultivator. Especially when using the sword to cast spells, it was still very valuable. Using the sword to cast spells could only cast some common spells and spells unique to sword cultivators. He could not cast special spells like the water dragon art. However, Wang Daoyuan knew many common spells. Using the sword to cast offensive spells such as the golden saber art would increase the power by a lot. His personality was not suitable for the path of sword cultivator. He just needed to cultivate a little and have an understanding of sword cultivator techniques. There was no need to put in much effort. Wu Yi's black longsword was not bad. It was a mid-grade level 2 magic weapon called the Inky Gold Sword. It was made of level 2 spiritual material, Inky Gold. Inky Gold had some effect of avoiding divine sense detection. In addition, this material was extremely hard, and the long sword forged from it was also extremely sharp. This Inky Gold Sword was considered very good among level 2 magic weapons. The reason why Wu Yi's outfit could block divine sense detection was that it had 2 or 3 layers of soul-binding silk added to it. Therefore, Wu Yi regarded this outfit as a treasure. This thing was not much to Wang Daoyuan. After all, there were still a few hundred kilograms of soul-binding silk stored in the space of the spiritual pearl. He had a basic understanding of Wu Yi's situation. As for the sword cultivator legacy, it would not be too late to cultivate it when he had time to go out. It took more than 10 days to deal with the matter of the clone. In 2 days, it would be the day of the Netherworld sex auction of the Foundation Establishment Pill. It was time for the Wang family to send someone. Wang Daoyuan left the cave abode. At this time, the 12th uncle was preparing to set off. Seeing him come out, Wang Shi asked, "Have you recovered from your injuries?" Wang Daoyuan did not answer directly, but replied with a voice transmission, "I'm not injured, but you have to be careful. Someone spent 50,000 spirit stones to buy your life. There might be a peak Foundation Establishment assassin, but the deal might not be settled yet. My life is also worth 20,000 spirit stones. The assassin who intercepted me was the one who took this job. I've already taken care of him." Wang Shui said with a smile, "Don't worry about such a small matter. I have a lot of life-saving things on me. With my cultivation and some trump cards, I'll be able to defeat him. Unless the assassin kills me with a single blow, even a peak Foundation Establishment cultivator can take me down." With that, he leaked a trace of spiritual power at the 5th level of Foundation Establishment. Wang Daoyuan nodded with a smile, not finding it strange. Hiding cultivation was the Wang family's style. Great-grandfather was at the late stage of Foundation Establishment and had been pretending to be at the peak of Qi refinement. Great-grandfather was at the 8th level of Foundation Establishment and pretended to be at the middle stage. 12th uncle had 2 spiritual roots. His water spiritual root was 8.7 inches. He had been at Foundation Establishment for nearly 30 years, but on the surface, he was only at the 3rd level of Foundation Establishment. His cultivation speed was even slower than that of ordinary Foundation Establishment cultivators. Only he was the most honest and had never hidden his cultivation. Chapter 201. The family's original plan was for the 12th uncle, 8th uncle, and 9th aunt to support the auction. Wang Daoyuan came out of seclusion and rushed to Qingli Market. The 12th uncle and him would support the auction while bringing along second brother Wang Daoxing. After bidding for the Foundation Establishment Pill, he would let him build his foundation in Clear Glass City. This would also save him from any trouble. The 3 of them took a flying tiger and headed to Qingli Market. With Yun Yi's usual speed, a journey of more than 2,000 miles would only take 2 hours. The price was only 40 kilograms of roasted spirit beast meat. Yun Yi was still relatively naive and hadn't learned how to calculate the price based on the number of people and the volume of goods. After entering Qingli Market, the 3 of them first went to Jade Spring General Store and waited for the auction to begin. Wang Daoyuan and the other 2 weren't people who could stay idle. If they had the time, they would naturally go to the restaurant to eat and drink. The current Drunken Immortal restaurant wasn't like when it first opened. They were afraid that there wouldn't be enough ingredients if there were too many customers. After opening the trade route in Haiyang County, there was simply an endless supply of spirit beast meat. In terms of spirit wine, the supply of scarlet blood wine was also very abundant. In addition, the 12th uncle had also researched using spirit grains to brew wine and named it spirit grain alcohol. Spirit grain alcohol's ability to recover spirit power was naturally far inferior to scarlet blood wine, but it won in the price of 2 kilograms of spirit stones. Many drunkards and cash-strapped cultivators were the main customers of spirit grain alcohol. Although spirit grain alcohol was far inferior to scarlet blood wine, the speed of recovering spirit power was still much faster than spirit recovery pills. When rogue cultivators went out, fighting was a common occurrence. Being able to quickly recover spirit power increased their chances of survival. The supply of spirit wine and spirit beast meat was abundant. In addition, Wang Daoyuan provided seasonings, as well as the restored Chinese dishes from his previous life. The Drunken Immortal Restaurant's business was exceptionally good. Every month, it had more than 2,000 spirit stones in sales. The profits of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant had already crushed the Jade Spring Alchemy Seal Pavilion, and it was still growing. Other restaurants also came to the Wang family to secretly learn dishes. Simple dishes were easy to learn, but complicated dishes couldn't be imitated just by eating a few times. Now, the chef of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant was 8th sister Wang Daoshu. Wang Daoyuan's restored dishes can't be taught to outsiders. The only one in the family who has the talent to cook is 8th sister. The three entered Drunken Immortal Restaurant. The clan members who were working here hurriedly bowed when they saw the clan leader and the two elders. The three of them were only here to eat and drink. They didn't want to cause too much trouble, so they asked for a private room to avoid the gazes of the crowd. Wang Daoyuan scanned the situation in the restaurant and saw Wang Daoyuan Daoist. He stepped forward and greeted, "Fellow cultivator Zhao, it's been a few years since we last met. How have you been?" This familiar person was the Divine Weapon Pavilion's Zhao Liang, the profiteer who sold the profound Yang sword back then. He and always. To Uncle Wang Tian, uncle to the restaurant, blacksmitherine. He was just a blacksmith. What was the use of stealing dishes? Zhao Liang was still at the peak of qi refinement. Seeing Wang Daoyuan take the initiative to greet him, he hurriedly stood up and bowed. "Thank you for your concern, Senior Wang. I am well." Wang Daoyuan smiled. "Daoyu Zhao, you don't have to be like this. You and I have known each other for many years. Our ages are similar, so we can call each other equals." Zhao Liang repeatedly said that he didn't dare. The two exchanged a few words before Wang Daoyuan took his leave and went upstairs. Wang Daoyuan, 12th uncle, and second brother ordered all the dishes of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant, saying that they wanted to know the dishes of the restaurant. In the end, the three of them were so full that they lay down. In order not to lose face, they circulated their spirit energy and refined the food before walking out of the room. This meal was paid by Wang Daoyuan with spirit stones. The patriarch brought two elders to eat and drink for free in their own restaurant. It was too bad of an influence. If they really did that, the other clansmen would follow suit and the business of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant would be finished. A few hundred spirit stones were nothing to him. He could casually refine a cauldron of Tier 2 pills or a few low-grade Tier 2 talismans and it would be enough to pay for this meal. 2 days later, the auction of the Foundation Establishment pill officially began. The three of them arrived at the auction house. Last time, Shi Zhenbang came to cause trouble and burned the entire auction house. Nearly 30 years had passed and the auction house had been restored. The three of them still went to the private room on the second floor of the auction house. It was just that the location of the Wang clan's private room had changed. In the past, it was at the side of the auction stage. Now, it was diagonally opposite the auction stage, right next to the Zifu clan's private room. The current location was naturally much better than the previous one. The auction soon began. This time, the Yang clan and the Liang clan didn't come. The Zifu realm cultivators in the Netherworld sect's territory all had the position of elder in the sect. Elders of the Netherworld sect could buy a Foundation Establishment pill at a fixed price. In addition, they weren't allowed to participate in the auction. Last time, the Yang clan and the Liang clan participated in the auction because the two clans had participated in the Battle of Guiyan Valley. Some Foundation Establishment cultivators had died in battle or killed Foundation Establishment cultivators of two sections. Last time, the auction of the Foundation Establishment pill was in the nature of compensation. Since the two clansmen had died in battle, they naturally could participate. This auction of the Foundation Establishment pill was a routine auction held by the Netherworld sect every 60 years. The Zifu clan wasn't allowed to participate. Without the Zifu clan's participation, The Wang clan's competitiveness in this auction was one of the best. With the Wang clan's current wealth, it wasn't difficult for them to get 2 foundation establishment pills. However, they couldn't show off too much. Previously, the 7 foundation establishment cultivators in one sect had already attracted the attention of the clans in the northern and central parts of Xueqi County. If they got 2 more foundation establishment pills, they would have 2 more foundation establishment cultivators. The 9 foundation establishment cultivators in one sect would be too conspicuous. If they were in the limelight too much, they might attract the jealousy of other clans. In the future, they might be hindered by other clans when doing business. Once the Netherworld sect called for more foundation establishment cultivators, the Wang clan would have to send out even more foundation establishment cultivators. If they were unlucky and ran into an elder from a foreign sect, then the Wang clan would inevitably lose foundation establishment cultivators. The last auction of the foundation establishment pills had emptied out the foundations of many clans. This auction also didn't have a discount, so the bidding was much more peaceful. Of the 10 foundation establishment pills, only the first and the last one reached 60,000 spirit stones. The Wang clan got the second foundation establishment pill for 55,000 spirit stones. After getting the foundation establishment pills, the 3 of them immediately returned to the Jade Spring General Store and prepared to let Wang Daoxing reach foundation establishment here. Wang Shi specially brought over a dozen formation plates and set up a high-grade Tier 2 defensive formation in the Jade Spring General Store. The original formations were all high-grade Tier 1 formations set up by the Netherworld sect. They weren't of much use at all. If someone dared to cause trouble, they would definitely be foundation establishment cultivators. A high-grade Tier 1 formation could at most withstand 2 or 3 strikes. The spirit vein in the old market of Xueqi County was a low-grade Tier 3 spirit vein with no attribute. The concentration of spirit chi was enough to support foundation establishment cultivators. Furthermore, it was suitable for foundation establishment cultivators of all attributes. Wang Daoxing took the foundation establishment pill and entered Ninth Uncle's cave abode. Activating the high-grade Tier 2 defensive formation, Wang Daoyuan sat in the core of the formation and controlled the large formation. Wang Shui stood guard in front of the cave abode. 2 hours later, a spirit chi vortex with a diameter of more than 90 feet appeared above the cave abode. Wang Daoxing's main spirit root was 7 inches and 9 feet tall, which was also a triple spirit root. His talent was not much worse than his third brother Wang Daochong. A quarter of an hour later, the spirit chi vortex gradually shrank and finally disappeared. A burst of violent metal spirit chi fluctuations came out of the cave abode. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to investigate and found that Wang Daoxing's body was shining with a golden light. This was taking advantage of the remaining energy of foundation establishment to cultivate to the 3rd level of lustrous golden body art. Wang Daoyuan didn't understand the world of geniuses. When he reached foundation establishment, he barely succeeded by using all his strength. Unlike his second brother, who succeeded in foundation establishment and still had the energy to cultivate body refining techniques. Now that lustrous golden body art was cultivated to the 3rd level, after he consolidated his cultivation and mastered the sword controlling technique, his fighting strength should be comparable to an ordinary 3rd level foundation establishment cultivator. Chapter 202. Wang Daoxing had been at the peak of chi refinement for a few years, so his foundation was quite solid. After consolidating his cultivation for half a day, he walked out of the cave. He had broken through a major realm and upgraded his body refinement technique, so his chi and blood were almost exhausted. Although foundation establishment cultivators could fast, body refinement cultivators needed to eat a lot of food to replenish their chi and blood, so they usually couldn't fast. After leaving the cave, Wang Daoxing wanted to go to the Drunken Immortal restaurant to have a big meal. As the clan leader, Wang Shui naturally had to express his gratitude for the addition of a foundation establishment cultivator to the clan. He immediately said, "Since Daoyuan treated you last time, I'll treat you too to a big meal this time." As soon as the 3 of them entered the Drunken Immortal restaurant, they saw Zhao Liang still sitting in the corner, sneakily staring in the direction of the kitchen. Wang Daoyuan greeted him and went upstairs to the private room. As soon as the 3 of them entered the private room, a waiter came in. The waiter in the restaurant was a descendant of the clan who had just come of age and had come here to gain experience. This person was called Wang Daoxing. He was in his early 20s and was ranked 26th in the Dao generation. His cultivation talent was average and he didn't have any special skills in the 100 arts of cultivation. He came to the Drunken Immortal restaurant to gain experience for a few years and become a manager in the business hall. Wang Daoxing asked, "Clan leader, elders, what would you like to eat?" Wang Daoxing said, "We have all the dishes in the restaurant. No need to be polite with me. Anyway, it's 12th uncle's treat." Wang Daoxing smiled. "All right, I'll go tell 8th sister now." Wang Daoyuan said, "Wait a minute, 26th brother, what's up with Zhao Liang? I've been here twice in the past few days, and both times I've seen him there, sneakily looking into the kitchen. Does he come here every day?" Wang Daoxing answered, "That sneaky fellow staring at the kitchen indeed comes every day." Wang Daoyuan was a bit puzzled. He asked, "That fellow is a refiner of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. What's a blacksmith doing in the kitchen?" Wang Daoxing stammered, "I don't dare to say it. Otherwise, 8th sister will teach me a lesson." Wang Daoyuan directly called Yun Yi out of the spirit pearl space. Fortunately, the private room was big enough. Otherwise, it would not be able to accommodate Yun Yi's fat body. He pointed at Yun Yi and asked, "You are afraid that 8th sister will punish you. Aren't you afraid that Yun Yi will play with you?" Hearing this, Yun Yi even opened her mouth and licked her fangs that were more than a foot long. The 12th uncle also heard that something was going on here. He stretched out his right hand, and a 5-inch-long water dragon moved between his fingers. Wang Daoxing's eyes widened as his body emitted a golden light. Wang Daoxing was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "26th brother, don't be afraid. With the 12th uncle and me supporting you, what are you afraid of? You don't have to be afraid of losing your job. I am now the punishment elder and the highest commander of Linji Mountain. As long as you are reliable and capable, it will not be a problem to arrange a position for you. Besides, it is against the clan's rules to hide something and not report it. This punishment elder is not a decoration." Under the coercion of the three people, Wang Daoxing could only confess. That person called Zhao Liang is here for 8th sister. Since more than a year ago, he has been running to the restaurant and shamelessly trying to get close to 8th sister. At first, 8th sister ignored him, but after a long time, 8th sister also has some feelings for Zhao Liang. After hearing this, Wang Shi waved his hand and said, "You can leave first. I will call you if there is anything." Wang Daoxing immediately rolled and crawled out of the private room. Wang Shui said, "The people from Divine Weapon Pavilion are definitely not here for the dishes of Drunken Immortal restaurant. They have always only done business and do not have much contact with the local forces. What does this kid mean?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "I have only gone to Divine Weapon Pavilion to buy a few artifacts and have interacted with Zhao Liang a few times. I do not know his specific situation. This matter is not easy to handle. Logically speaking, if 8th sister is interested in Zhao Liang, there is no need for us to break them up. A marriage between a disciple of Divine Weapon Pavilion and a local family is not in line with Divine Weapon Pavilion's principles. This matter may be Zhao Liang's own idea. His teacher does not know, so it is not good for us to directly express our opinion." Wang Shi nodded and said, "Yes, it is not appropriate for us to oppose this matter. It is also not appropriate for us to be too active. If Zhao Liang's teacher does not agree, it would seem that our Wang family is too shameless." Wang Daoxing said impatiently, "You people are thinking too much. Just call 8th sister up and ask her. Don't you feel a headache thinking about it?" Wang Shi smiled and said, "That makes sense. What is the use of us frowning here? Let's ask Dao Shu for her opinion." After saying that, he sent a voice transmission to Wang Daoshu, asking her to come up. Before long, Wang Daoshu came to the private room. Wang Shi asked, "Daoshu, it is more appropriate for 9th sister to ask you about this matter. But since I am here today, then I cannot ignore it. I also know a little about you and Zhao Liang's matter. If that kid is really interested in you, I naturally won't object. It's just that the Divine Weapon Pavilion has always only done business and does not have any other association with the local forces. Zhao Liang is a member of Divine Weapon Pavilion. If he wants to marry you, the resistance might be very great." She was so embarrassed that her face flushed red. She lowered her head and did not speak. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "8th sister, since you are embarrassed to say, then go down first. Let's have a chat with Zhao Liang." Wang Daoshu withdrew. Wang Daoyuan sent a voice transmission to Zhao Liang, asking him to come up for a chat. Before long, Zhao Liang entered the private room and bowed to the three people. As an elder, it was not too appropriate for Wang Shui to speak first when facing Zhao Liang. Second brother was basically a blockhead in this aspect. He could only ask himself. Wang Daoyuan asked, Dao Yu Zhao, I also know about the matter between you and my eighth sister. I think Dao Yu Zhao is clearer than me about the rules of Divine Weapon Pavilion. I'm afraid your teacher still doesn't know about the matter between you and my eighth sister, right? I wonder how Dao Yu plans to deal with this matter? Do you really want to marry eighth sister? Or are you relying on the power of Divine Weapon Pavilion to cheat? If it's the former, then inform the seniors of Divine Weapon Pavilion as soon as possible. If the seniors of Divine Weapon Pavilion don't agree, then break it off early. Don't delay eighth sister. If it's the latter, although the Wang family is weak, it is not to be bullied by others. Zhao Liang was at a loss for words by Wang Daoyuan. After thinking for a long time, he replied, I naturally sincerely want to marry Dao Shu. It's just that I have not considered the rules of Divine Weapon Pavilion. Thank you, Senior, for your guidance. I will go back and ask Master. If Master agrees, I will definitely marry her openly. If Master doesn't agree, I will definitely not pester her anymore. Finished speaking, he left the Drunken Immortal Inn. Wang Shui sighed and said, This matter is really troublesome. If Zhao Liang's master doesn't agree, it's fine. If the two don't pester each other, it will be good for both sides. If he agrees, our Wang family will also be in a dilemma. If Dao Shu marries out, the business of Drunken Immortal Inn will be affected, and that is a small matter. The main thing is the marriage with Divine Weapon Pavilion. There will be villains at Netherworld sect fanning the flames, saying that our Wang family is disloyal. At that time, our Wang family's days will not be easy. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, Why think so much? Take one step at a time. Our Wang family has been wearing the Netherworld sect's shoes for more than 300 years. The more difficult days have passed. Why are we still afraid of this? The matter of two Qi refinement juniors, Netherworld sect will not have too big of a reaction. Not long after, the wine and dishes were served. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui did not have much appetite. But Wang Daoxing's appetite was not affected at all, and he finished most of the dishes. Chapter 203. After the meal, Wang Shui and Wang Daoxing took the Flying Tiger back to Jade Spring Peak, while Wang Daoyuan stayed in Clear Glass City. As the clan leader, Wang Shui still had matters to attend to in the clan. Wang Daoxing had just reached Foundation Establishment and was in a hurry to cultivate the sword kinesis technique. Arrangements had been made at Linji Mountain, so it was not a big problem whether Wang Daoyuan went or not. Eighth sister and Zhao Liang's matter had to be handled by someone with enough authority. Only Wang Daoyuan had the least amount of time to spare. He might as well refine pills and make talismans in the cave abode in the backyard of the Alchemy Seal Pavilion and wait for news from Zhao Liang. This kid was not kind. He treated him as a friend, but he wanted to be his brother-in-law. After the conversation that day, Zhao Liang suddenly stopped and did not come to the Drunken Immortal Inn for several days. Eighth sister was a little worried that something had happened to Zhao Liang. Wang Daoyuan did not mind. If this matter was successful, it would bring a lot of trouble to the Wang family. He could not see the benefits for the time being. After all, Zhao Liang was only a Qi refinement cultivator and an inferior grade Tier 2 weapon refiner. A person's words carried little weight, and it did not affect the decisions of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Therefore his attitude was that it was best if it failed. The Wang family had always been very humane. As long as it was not betraying the family's interests, everything was negotiable. Since eighth sister had been tricked by Zhao Liang, this shameless guy, the Wang family would not object. Even if she got married, as long as she did not reveal some of the Wang family's secrets and did not do anything that harmed the family's interests, it did not matter. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Zhao Liang did not come again. Wang Daoyuan was very glad. It seemed that this matter had failed. Just as Wang Daoyuan was about to leave Clear Glass City and continue to bully the demon beasts at Linji Mountain, a huge pressure descended from the sky. Wang Daoyuan immediately flew up on his sword and saw an old man with a white beard and white hair standing on an auspicious cloud above the Drunken Immortal Inn. There was another person standing behind the old man. It was Zhao Liang. Even Zifu disciples would have to fly through the air on magic treasures. However, The senior in front of him was directly riding a cloud in the air. Only a golden core cultivator could do that. Wang Daoyuan had never seen a living golden core cultivator before, but the golden core cultivator in front of him looked a little unbearable. His hair bun was crooked, and there was a lot of messy hair around it. His beard seemed to have been shaved off by someone with a sword, but only half of it had been shaved off. Half of his beard was longer than the other half. His clothes were a bit messy and torn in many places, as if he had just gone through a great battle. No matter how unsightly his image was, he was still a golden core cultivator, an existence that could wipe out the Wang clan with a wave of his hand. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to be negligent. He immediately bowed and said, "Junior Wang Daoyuan of the Jade Spring Wang family, welcome, senior." The Jindan cultivator glanced at him and asked, "You were the one who forced my disciple, Zhao Liang?" Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was shocked. This brat Zhao Liang actually had a golden core master, and he even came to denounce him. Just as he was about to refute, another person flew over on a sword. It was Yang Yong. Yang Yong flew in front of the three people and cupped his hands towards the golden core cultivator. "Junior Yang Yong, the guardian of Clear Glass City, greet senior. My Netherworld sect and Divine Weapon Pavilion have an agreement. Divine Weapon Pavilion is not allowed to casually make a move in Netherworld sect's territory. Senior, please don't break the rules." The golden core cultivator glanced at Yang Yong and said, "I don't need you to remind me. Besides, I don't have the intention to kill this brat. I'm here to propose marriage. All right, don't stand in the sky and make a joke out of yourself." Wang Daoyuan immediately landed in front of the Drunken Immortal Inn and cupped his hands towards the sky. "Senior, please come in for a chat." The golden core cultivator and Yang Yong both landed in front of the Drunken Immortal Inn. Yang Yong saw that the person who came wasn't looking for trouble, so he didn't follow and turned to leave. Wang Daoyuan brought the golden core cultivator and Zhao Liang into a private room and invited them to sit down. He cupped his hands and asked, "Senior, may I ask if Zhao Daoyu is your descendant by blood?" The golden core cultivator didn't understand and replied, "No." Wang Daoyuan's expression changed slightly and turned to ask Zhao Liang, "May I ask if Zhao Daoyu is related to the previous dynasty's imperial family?" Zhao Liang looked around, not knowing if he should say or not. The golden core cultivator said, "Just say it. With me here, no one will dare to eavesdrop." Zhao Liang sighed and said, "I won't hide it from Daoyu. I'm the Lai Emperor's great-grandson. My grandfather is the Lai Emperor's eldest son." The golden core cultivator was curious and asked Wang Daoyuan, "You're quite smart. How did you guess?" Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Senior, please don't take offense if there's anything wrong with what I said. This Daoyu Zhao has 3 types of spiritual energy fluctuations on his body. He's at least a cultivator with 3 spiritual roots. He's about the same age as me and has a famous teacher to guide him, but he's only a second-grade weapon refiner. Whether it's his cultivation talent or weapon refinement talent, he can't be considered outstanding." Chapter 204. The golden core cultivator slammed the table and said angrily, "What? Is your Wang family looking down on me? Not to mention you, even if your ancestor was still alive, he would still have to give this old man some face. I am a golden core cultivator, and Zhao Liang is my disciple. Master and disciple are like father and son. Is my direct disciple not worthy of your Wang family's girl?" Wang Daoyuan felt a lingering fear. Fortunately, the family box had a soundproof array. Otherwise, if he continued shouting like this, nothing could be kept secret. He hurriedly apologized. Since the Wang family's ancestor passed away, they have been struggling at death's door under the wings of the Netherworld sect. Even rogue cultivators don't dare to slight them. Not to mention Zhao Daoyu is a golden core direct disciple. It's just that the Wang family is under the protection of the Netherworld sect. If the marriage alliance with the Zhao royal family is leaked, the Wang family will be exterminated. Moreover, the seniors of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will not agree to the marriage alliance with the Wang family. Even if Daoyu's identity is not exposed, the Wang family will be suppressed by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. For the lives of dozens of cultivators and hundreds of thousands of ordinary family members, Junior does not dare to agree to Senior's request. The golden core cultivator sighed and said, "Disciple, it's not easy for you to get a wife." Wang Daoyuan thought for a while and said, "If Daoyu insists on marrying, the Wang family will not dare to refuse. But to protect the clan, they can only expel 8th sister from the family. After that, 8th sister changed her name and has nothing to do with the Wang family. The golden core cultivator said angrily, "Nonsense, I, Lei Yen Junren, have lived for 800 years. Some people say I am unreasonable, pestering endlessly, and a fool, but no one said I bully the weak. For the sake of my disciple's marriage, I can't do something like forcibly breaking up a family. Isn't it just the Netherworld sect? I just beat up a few old fools of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. I don't care about beating up a few more. I'd like to see how long those wandering souls of the Netherworld sect can last under my thunder technique." Wang Daoyuan sent a voice transmission to Ba Mei to come over. After a while, Ba Mei entered the private room. Wang Daoyuan asked, "8th sister, this Zhao Daoyu is a direct descendant of the former Emperor Lai. If you marry him, your family will be suppressed by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Once Zhao Daoyu's identity was exposed, the Netherworld sect might exterminate him. If you're willing to marry him, the family won't stop you. However, for the survival of the clan, I can only expel you from the Wang clan. From now on, you will no longer have anything to do with the Wang clan. You are also not allowed to have any contact with the people of the Wang clan. Are you willing?" Hearing this, Wang Daoshu's tears gushed out. After crying for a long time, she finally said, "I can't bear to leave my parents, but I also can't bear to leave Zhao Liang. In order to not make things difficult for the family, I am willing to leave the family and never contact them again." At this moment, Zhao Liang's eyes were also filled with tears. He cried and said, "No need. Since I can remember, the people around me died one by one in order to protect me. Because of the title of the great-grandson of the Lai Emperor, my grandfather and father hid in the mountains for 300 years, not daring to show their faces. Even so, they were still hunted down by the 3 major sections. The people who followed my grandfather were killed one after another. Until I was 10 years old, Grandpa Zhao Zhong, who had brought me up, also died. Before he died, he entrusted me to Master and used his own grandson to die in my place. If not for Master's protection, I wouldn't have lived until now. Because of my marriage, Master also beat up a few Jindan stage elders of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Now, he also forced Dao Shu to cut ties with her family. Other than Master and Dao Shu, I have nothing. Only the 4 of us know my identity. Outsiders all think that I'm dead. The title of Lai Emperor's direct descendant is useless to me." After saying this, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Lei Yen Junren, saying, "Master has already done too much for me. I don't want Master to risk his life for me. I've decided to change my name, leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion, and marry into the Wang family. I've failed Master's teachings and betrayed the sect, smearing Master's face." Lei Yen Junren sighed, saying, "Forget it. Since you've made your decision, Master won't stop you. As long as you have a place to go, this old man's debt to your grandfather can be considered repaid. Although you marrying into the Wang family is a loss of face, this old man doesn't care. I can't even decide for my own disciple's marriage. I've already lost all my face. Just leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Since we're master and disciple, I won't expel you." Lei Yen Junren paused for a moment, then turned to Wang Daoyuan, saying, "In the future, if someone makes trouble for the Wang family because of Zhao Liang's identity, as long as this old man is still alive, I'll definitely stand up for the Wang family. Are you satisfied now?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Junior naturally has no objections. It's just that this matter is of great importance and I don't dare to make a decision on my own. I need to report to the Patriarch and let him decide." Lei Yen Junren snorted, saying, "He's also not a straightforward person. You go and discuss it. I'll stay in the Drunken Immortal Inn for a few days." Zhao Liang praised this girl's culinary skills to the heavens. This old man also wants to taste my disciple's wife's culinary skills. Wang Daoyuan immediately rode Yun Yi back to the Jade Spring Peak and reported this matter to Patriarch Wang Shui. Wang Shui pondered for a long time and said, "There's no harm in agreeing. Including me, only 5 people know Zhao Liang's true identity. The Netherworld sect thinks that he's already dead. As long as we don't speak of this matter, there's no possibility of it being exposed in a short period of time. Furthermore, Lei Yen Junren can still protect the Wang family for 200 years. Whether or not the Netherworld sect can hold on for another 200 years is another matter. 200 years is enough for us to move the family's foundation to the Five Elements Mystery Realm. At that time, why would we be afraid of the Netherworld sect? No matter what, Zhao Liang is still a second-rank weapon refiner. If he marries into our Wang family, he can at least bring us the legacy of weapon refinement. Our Wang family won't lose Dao Shu, this chef. Since I've agreed to this matter, I'll leave it to you to handle. After receiving the order, Wang Daoyuan informed the Grand Elder. The arrangements for the wedding had to be approved by the Grand Elder. Thereafter, he rode Yunyi once more and headed to Clear Glass City. When he arrived at the Drunken Immortal Inn, the Golden Core was still in his original private room. However, he was feasting and there were dozens of empty plates on the table. His hands were greasy and even his beard was stained with meat. He did not have the image of a senior expert at all. When he saw Wang Daoyuan staring at him, Lei Yan Zhenren said nonchalantly, "I'm a dual body and energy cultivator and can be considered half a body tempering cultivator. Body tempering cultivators don't need to abstain from eating. So what's wrong with eating more?" Wang Daoyuan hurriedly apologized. "Please forgive me, senior. I thought that senior experts don't eat and lost my composure for a moment. Please forgive me. Also, the Patriarch has already agreed to this marriage and ordered me to handle it." The Golden Core pulled the tablecloth and wiped his hands and mouth, saying, "Your Patriarch is much more straightforward than you. Then, I'll wait here for you to send someone to welcome my disciple into the family. Since my disciple has already decided to leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion, it's not appropriate to hold the wedding at the branch of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Let's decorate this restaurant and let him get on the sedan chair here." With that, he looked at Yunyi outside the door and asked, "If I'm not wrong, that fat and shapeless mount of yours should be Yunyi Tiger, right?" Chapter 205. Wang Daoyuan replied, "It is indeed a Yunyi Tiger, but I fed it too much and made it too fat." Taoist Lei Yan stroked his beard and smiled. "Little friend, you are quite lucky. Although I don't know how to tame beasts, I have a few old friends who do. According to them, this Yunyi tiger is the only second-rank land beast that can fly, and it seems to be quite extraordinary. Moreover, Yunyi tigers are extremely rare. Even those old friends of mine have never raised one. It's just that the ancient legends say that Yunyi tigers are a mutated species, but it doesn't say what's so special about them. Little friend, since you are so lucky to get a Yunyi tiger, you must raise it well." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands. "I will follow senior's teachings." Taoist Lei Yan waved his hand. "My disciple will marry into the Wang family, so we are one family, no need to be so reserved. I don't care about how the wedding is going to be arranged. Just follow the Wang family's rules. There is no need for betrothal gifts, I don't care about that. What I care about, your Wang family can't take out. I feel that the food in your Wang family's restaurant is not bad. I will eat a few meals here. Consider it as a betrothal gift." Wang Daoyuan bid farewell and left to prepare for the wedding. Of course, there weren't many things that he needed to prepare. These things were naturally arranged by the elders in the family. There was no need for a foundation establishment cultivator like him to take care of these things. 7 days later, all the preparations were completed. Wang Daoyuan went to ask Taoist Lei Yan when to welcome the bride. When he saw Taoist Lei Yan, he found that he was refining food. He had eaten too much. A Jindan true acknowledgement was actually the same as Wang Daoxing. Probably all body refiners were like this. Seeing Wang Daoyuan come, Taoist Lei Yan asked, "Have you arranged everything?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "All the preparations have been completed. I only ask senior to set a date." Taoist Lei Yan burped. "I have heard that the Wang family's rules are a bit like those of a mortal family. I don't have that many rules. Since I'm ready, I can come and pick you up tomorrow. It's up to you how you want to do it. Just have the 2 newcomers toast to me." After Wang Daoyuan received Taoist Lei Yan's approval, he immediately returned to report the news and prepare for the wedding the next day. Early the next morning, everyone from the Wang family set off from Jade Spring Peak, heading towards Clear Glass Market to escort the bride. The distance between Jade Spring Peak and Clear Glass Market was more than 2,000 li. Ordinary clansmen were unable to fly, so a round trip would probably take 2 to 3 days. It would take too much time. Therefore, Wang Daoyuan added some accessories for Yunyi. He carried a large red palanquin on his back and pulled a boat that was 50 feet long and 10 feet wide behind him. Wang Daoyuan inscribed a floating array formation on the ship. Although Wang Daoyuan's current level of array formation was not enough to inscribe a floating array formation and a propulsion array formation on a boat at the same time. However, inscribing only one array formation was not a big problem. The propulsion array formation could be replaced by Yuan-yi. Yuan-yi was not very willing to hang so many things. Only when Wang Daoyuan promised to give it double the roasted meat did it reluctantly agree. Wang Daoyuan led the way on his sword, while Yuan-yi followed behind. Eighth sister, Wang Daoshu, was wearing a phoenix coronet and a robe. She sat in the palanquin on the back of a tiger. The wedding procession sat on the boat behind Yuan-yi. After an hour, they arrived at the top of the Drunken Immortal Inn. Yuan-yi landed in front of the Drunken Immortal Inn, and the wedding procession behind her got off the boat. Wang Daoyuan played the role of a matchmaker and went upstairs to greet them first. 12th sister, Wang Daoxian, helped Wang Daoshu down from the palanquin and accompanied her into the Drunken Immortal Inn. Wang Daoyin also followed behind to welcome the groom. At this time, Zhao Liang was also wearing a wedding robe. Seeing Wang Daoshu come in, Daoist Lei Yan nodded in satisfaction. When Wang Daoyin came in, Daoist Lei Yan's face immediately changed. Wang Daoyuan's heart also sank. He did not know what happened to Daoist Lei Yan. He hurriedly asked, "Is there something wrong in front?" Daoist Lei Yan walked towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan immediately stood in front of him and said with a smile, "My younger brother is young and ignorant. If there is anything wrong, please forgive him." Daoist Lei Yan's divine sense directly probed Wang Daoyin. Then, a gust of wind blew and pulled Wang Daoyin over. Daoist Lei Yan put his hand on Wang Daoyin's wrist and pondered for a moment. He asked, "Is your younger brother's appetite especially big? He digests spiritual items very quickly and his cultivation speed can't increase?" Wang Daoyuan hurriedly answered, "It is as senior said. My younger brother has been like this since he was young. Before he started cultivating, he could eat 2.5 kilograms of spiritual grains. The spiritual energy he cultivated and the spiritual energy he ate would be automatically absorbed by his body, causing his cultivation speed to slow down. Senior, do you know the reason for this?" Daoist Lei Yan stroked his beard and laughed. "This is my best successor. It just so happens that I also have this physique. I have been searching for a successor for hundreds of years and have seen many geniuses with thunder spiritual roots. However, those with thunder attribute physiques are few and far between. Those with the same physique as mine are even rarer. Before this, I only met a junior with the same physique as mine. However, because he lacked a cultivation method when he was young and did not have enough resources to nourish his body, his special physique was crippled. I originally thought that I would not be able to find a suitable successor in this lifetime. Who would have thought that I would meet him here? This kid is really lucky to have a genius like you as his elder brother. He doesn't lack cultivation resources. Although he doesn't have a suitable cultivation method, he has enough resources. His physique is not crippled. Kid, are you willing to take me as your master?" Wang Daoyin was at a loss. He looked at Wang Daoyuan and asked for his opinion. Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "What are you standing there for? To be able to take me as your master is the fortune of 8 lifetimes." When Wang Daoyin heard this, he immediately wanted to kowtow. Daoist Lei Yan quickly supported Wang Daoyin and said, "Kid, you are an honest person. You are not like your elder brother who is full of tricks. However, I cannot accept a disciple so casually. I intend to let you be my successor. When a golden core Taoist accepts a successor disciple, there must be a ceremony. I will accept you as my disciple first. After your senior brother Zhao Liang's wedding, we will formally take you as my disciple. As for the wedding, you can continue." Zhao Liang brought Wang Daoshu and toasted Daoist Lei Yan, thanking him for his nurturing and teaching. Afterwards, Wang Daoyin led the way. Everyone left the Drunken Immortal Inn. Zhao Liang and Wang Daoshu sat in the bridal sedan on Yun-Yi's back. Wang Daoyuan continued to lead the way in front. Yun-Yi brought the bridal sedan and boat and followed closely behind. Daoist Lei Yan also followed behind on a cloud. The group soon arrived at the Jade Spring Peak. Everyone in the Wang family came out to welcome the arrival of a golden core Daoist. Daoist Lei Yan waved his hand and said, "No need to be so formal. This old man and the Wang family can be considered relatives. Just do what you want to do with the wedding. Don't worry about me." The wedding went on as usual. The newlyweds came to the north bank of the Jade Dragon Spring and bowed. Wang Daoshu's parents were also mortals of the family. But since their daughter was getting married, they naturally had to come. Daoist Lei Yan and Wang Daoshu's parents sat together on the main seat and received the newlyweds' worship. The wedding of an ordinary member of a cultivation family was usually celebrated within the family. No other guests were invited. After the ceremony, the newlyweds entered the bridal chamber. The others continued to eat and drink. The decorations on the Jade Spring Peak did not need to be removed. They only needed to be slightly changed for Wang Daoyin's apprenticeship ceremony a few days later. Chapter 206. On the second day after the wedding, Wang Daoyuan asked Perfected Lei Yan, "Senior, my younger brother wants to be your disciple. The elders in my family would like to invite families with good relations to participate in the ceremony. What do you think?" Perfected Lei Yan said, "After I return to the Divine Weapon Pavilion, I still have to hold the ceremony. You guys can do whatever you want. I won't interfere. I'll just show my face at that time." With Perfected Lei Yan's words, the Wang family started to prepare for the ceremony. When a golden core perfected cultivator accepted a disciple, they usually only held one ceremony. There were a few like Wang Daoyin and Perfected Lei Yan, whose master and disciple belonged to different factions, so they each held a ceremony. The main character of the ceremony was Wang Daoyin, and the organizer was the Wang family. The gifts were also from the Wang family. The main character of the ceremony was Perfected Lei Yan, and the organizer was the Divine Weapon Pavilion. When Perfected Lei Yan agreed to show his face, the Wang family quickly sent out invitations to their friendly families. The Yang family was naturally on the list of invitations, including the Li family and a few other families in Heiyang County. The Wang family also sent out invitations. Considering that some families were further away, the ceremony was scheduled half a month later. Wang Daoyuan even rode Yun-Yi back to Qingxi village to pick up his parents. In the cultivation world, the relationship between master and disciple was very important. There was a saying, "Seeking a master is like reincarnation." Acknowledging a master was more important than marriage. If one's parents were still alive, they had to be present. Half a month passed quickly, and the day of the ceremony arrived. Perfected Lei Yan was from the same generation as the Wang family's patriarch, and he was also a golden core elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The Divine Weapon Pavilion was one of the top factions in Beiyuan Xiuxian. It was not something that the Netherworld sect, which only occupied a third of Zhao, could compare to. Therefore, the invited families would definitely not let go of this opportunity to get close to the Divine Weapon Pavilion's golden core elder. Under such circumstances, the people who came to congratulate the families should be the oldest in the family. The people who received them could not be too low in seniority. Fifth great-uncle and eighth great-uncle respectively received the foundation establishment cultivators above and below 100 years old. The first guest who came to congratulate them was a bit more important. The person who came was precisely the Yang family's ancestor, Yang Yong. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoyin were both his direct descendants. When Yang Yong arrived, there was no one in the Wang family who was of the same seniority as him. Only fifth great-uncle Wang Jian could personally welcome him. Wang Jian welcomed Yang Yong into the auditorium. Wang Daoyuan's family of four bowed to him. Yang Yong looked at Wang Daoyin and smiled. "I didn't think that there would be such a talented person among this old man's descendants, to be able to catch the eye of Venerable Lei Yan." After saying that, he said to Wang Yong with regret, "Back then, it was such a pity to marry you to the Wang family instead of letting the Wang family members marry into the family. Otherwise, the brothers Daoyuan and Daoyin would be members of my Yang family." After he finished speaking, he walked straight to the main seat of the auditorium and bowed to Daoist Lei Yan, who was sitting high above. Adept Thunderflame didn't have a good impression of the underworld school, and Yang Yong was a Zifu disciple. There was no need for him to reply, so he simply nodded. Wang Daoyuan led Yang Yong to his grandfather. These cultivators with higher seniority were all received by the Wang clan's most senior grandfather. Soon after, the various clans in the Yang family's camp arrived to congratulate them. Furthermore, those who came to congratulate them were all the most senior members of their respective clans. Li Xinghe also brought a few foundation establishment cultivators from the River Sun County to congratulate them. The clans that the Wang clan sent out invitations to send people over. Just as Patriarch Wang Shui was about to announce the start of the ceremony, a black cloud quickly floated over from the west. As the black cloud got closer, an aura that far exceeded that of a Zifu disciple was emitted from the black cloud. This was the arrival of a golden core cultivator. Before Wang Jian could speak, a hearty laughter sounded from the cloud. Lei Yan, Dao Yu has arrived in Clearglass County. I hope that you can forgive me for not being a good host. This was the arrival of a golden core cultivator from the underworld school. Aside from Taoist Lei Yan, everyone in the auditorium went out to receive him. The black cloud slowly descended and a man in his 20s appeared in front of everyone. Everyone in the Wang clan didn't know how to address him. Yang Yong bowed. Greetings, sect master. Everyone outside the auditorium also bowed. Greetings, sect master. This person was one of the 3 great experts in the Zhao country, the sect master of the underworld school Luo Jiuyo. Luo Jiuyo was over 8 feet tall and had a handsome appearance. It wasn't the feminine kind of handsomeness, but masculinity. Who would have thought that the underworld school, a sect that played with corpses, would have such a masculine person as their leader? It was easier to accept that he was the leader of the Savage Sun Palace. Luo Jiuyo excused himself and took out a gift box. He placed it at the entrance of the auditorium and walked into the auditorium. Even if the underworld school couldn't be compared to the Divine Weapon Pavilion, Luo Jiuyo was still a golden core cultivator. Taoist Lei Yan also stood up and greeted Luo Jiuyo. Luo Jiuyo smiled. Congratulations to Dao Yu Lei Yan for finding a successor. The Wang clan is a subsidiary clan of my underworld school. Little friend Wang Daoyin can also be considered a member of my underworld school. Now that he has joined Dao Yu Lei Yan's sect, it can be considered as a proof of the friendly relationship between the underworld school and the Divine Weapon Pavilion. He then encouraged Wang Daoyin, little friend Daoyin, after joining the Divine Weapon Pavilion, you have to put in more effort for the harmony between the 2 clans. Although Wang Daoyin had been with his second brother Wang Daoxing for a long time, he was a bit rash. But with Wang Daoyuan's influence, he wasn't a pure brute. He bowed, neither servile nor overbearing. I will follow senior's teachings. Taoist Lei Yan was very satisfied with Wang Daoyin's performance. Luo Jiuyo looked at Wang Daoyuan's parents. A mortal couple can give birth to 2 cultivators, one with peerless talent and the other has already reached foundation establishment. It's really not easy. Both of you are mortals, so you have no use for the things of cultivators. I will reward you with 20 life extension pills. Life extension pills can extend the lifespan of cultivators and mortals, but it is only useful for those who have been seriously injured and whose foundation has been damaged. The upper limit of one's lifespan is fixed. Apart from increasing one's cultivation, no other means can make one's lifespan exceed the upper limit. Wang Fu and Wang Yongshi are both mortals. When have they ever seen such a scene? They were so scared that they didn't dare to speak. Wang Daoyuan bowed. Thank you, sect master, for the reward. Junior's parents have been in the countryside for a long time and have never seen the power of a Jin Dan master. They dare not speak. I hope sect master can forgive them. Wang Daoyuan's answer was appropriate. Luo Jiuyo nodded in satisfaction. He exchanged a few more words with Taoist Lei Yan, then used the excuse of being busy with the sex affairs and left. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, looks like the underworld school situation isn't too good. Otherwise, the underworld school's sect master wouldn't have come personally to express goodwill to Taoist Lei Yan. In the whole of Beiyuan Xiuxian, about half of the level 3 magic weapons were made by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. More than 70% of the level 4 magic weapons were made by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Luo Jiuyo fawned over the Divine Weapon Pavilion because he wanted to get support from the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Of course, it was impossible to expect the Divine Weapon Pavilion to intervene in the battle between the 3 major sects of Zhao. However, the Divine Weapon Pavilion could sell more level 3 and level 4 magic weapons, which would be of great benefit to the underworld school. Luo Jiuyo left, and the apprenticeship ceremony officially began. First, Wang Daoyin kowtowed to his parents for raising him, and to the patriarch for nurturing him. Then, Zhao Liang, as Taoist Lei Yan's disciple and Wang Daoyin's senior brother, praised Wang Daoyin and thanked the Wang family for nurturing such an outstanding disciple on behalf of his master. Finally, Wang Daoyin offered tea to Taoist Lei Yan and performed the apprenticeship ceremony. Taoist Lei Yan accepted the ceremony, indicating that he recognized this disciple. The host of this apprenticeship ceremony was the Wang family, so it wasn't too formal. Many important ceremonies, such as the apprenticeship invitation, were only held when the apprenticeship ceremony was held. After the apprenticeship ceremony ended, Taoist Lei Yan praised Wang Daoyin. He also invited everyone present to attend the apprenticeship ceremony at the Divine Weapon Pavilion in the future. Then, Taoist Lei Yan left the hall. The cultivators present weren't fools, and they all knew that these were just polite words. Even Zifu realm cultivators weren't qualified to attend the apprenticeship ceremony at the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Only Golden Core cultivators could receive an invitation. Chapter 207. With the presence of a Golden Core cultivator, the others didn't dare to stay for long. After the banquet, they all dispersed. According to the family rules, Wang Daoyuan's parents gave birth to a foundation establishment cultivator and had the right to enter the family's ancestral temple, receive incense from the future generations, and also have the right to live in the family's spiritual mountain. However, the two of them were used to living in Qingxi village and didn't want to leave their children and grandchildren in Qingxi village, so they didn't want to stay in Yuchuan mountain. The two of them went to the ancestral temple and offered incense to the old ancestor before being sent back to Qingxi village by Wang Daoyuan. For the next few days, Taoist Lei Yan temporarily stayed in the auditorium under the pretext of giving Wang Daoyin time to say goodbye to his family. In reality, it was just to eat a few more meals of the Wang family's delicacies. Most of the Wang family's dishes were recreated by Wang Daoyuan based on the delicacies of his previous life. Although, Wang Daoyuan had only heard of many of the dishes. But in the space of the spiritual pearl, there was plenty of time for his clone to experiment and find the best ratio of fire and seasoning. So far, the Wang family had a total of over 100 dishes, all of which were unheard of outside. Although there was also the path of spiritual cooking in Beiyuan Xiuxian, it wasn't valued and there was no systematic inheritance. Therefore, there weren't many fresh dishes in Beiyuan Xiuxian, and they couldn't be compared to the food of the Empire of Gluttons in his previous life. Body refinement cultivators were all gluttons, and they wouldn't be willing to leave until they were tired of these 100 dishes. Wang Daoyuan also took out the dishes that he hadn't passed down to his clansmen from time to time for Taoist Lei Yan to taste. After staying in the Wang family for nearly a month, Taoist Lei Yan felt embarrassed and wanted to leave. However, when he thought of Wang Daoyuan raising Wang Daoyin, this glutton, for nearly 40 years, he felt that he had paid too much. And he had been eating and drinking for free for so long, so it wasn't appropriate for him to just leave. Therefore, Taoist Lei Yan said to Wang Daoyuan, "It wasn't easy for you to raise Daoyin and preserve his physique for so many years. You also taught him the basics of refining, which saved him a lot of effort. I feel a bit sorry for taking him away. What kind of compensation do you want? As long as I can do it, I won't refuse." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "It's only right that I raise my younger brother. If Daoyin hadn't met you, he wouldn't have been able to display the advantages of his physique. For you to accept him as your disciple is his fortune and also the glory of our Wang clan. He doesn't need any compensation." Perfected Lei Yan pretended to be angry. "I'm a Golden Core Elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Since I've already said it, there's no reason for me to take it back." There were only two things that the Wang clan urgently needed. One was a flying boat for transporting goods, and the other was a supplementary spirit item for establishing the Purple Mansion. There were two types of supplementary spiritual items that had the best effects in establishing the Purple Palace. One was the Yin-Yang Purple Jade, and the other was the Purple Cloud Wood Core. In order to open the Violet Palace, a cultivator had to open the Guanyuan Acupoint, which was the lower Dantian, and connect it to the Sea of Consciousness. Then, he extracted the pure Yin Qi from the soul and the pure Yang Qi from the body. The combination of Yin and Yang Qi would produce Purple Qi, which would be used to condense the Purple Palace in the Sea of Consciousness. When the soul entered the Purple Palace would nourish the soul, and the soul would turn into the Divine Soul. If the pure Yin Qi and pure Yang Qi were insufficient, the Purple Qi produced would not be enough to condense the Purple Palace. Then, the breakthrough would fail, and the soul and body would be severely damaged. Of course, this damage was not unrecoverable, but it would take decades to fully recover. The lifespan of a foundation establishment cultivator was only 240 years. How many decades could they waste? Therefore, they needed the assistance of external items that could provide Purple Qi. In the cultivation world, The yin-yang purple jade and the purple cloudwood core were the only spiritual items that could be produced stably and contained a large amount of purple qi. The yin-yang purple jade was born at the intersection of yin and yang underground, and it could only be born when yin and yang were in balance. Ordinary jade was nourished by yin and yang qi, and when both yin and yang qi reached a balance in the jade, there would be a chance for a strand of purple qi to be born. After thousands or even tens of thousands of years of accumulation, the yin-yang purple jade would be formed. The conditions for the formation of the purple cloudwood core were also very harsh. First, it needed a third-grade spiritual wood, the purple cloud wood. The purple cloud wood had the characteristic of absorbing purple qi. It absorbed the purple qi in the world and stored it. After countless years of accumulation, it would form the purple cloudwood core, which was similar to a demonic beast's monster core. The purple qi in the world referred to the purple qi produced when the sun rose in the morning and the sun and moon intersected, coincidentally reaching a balance between yin and yang. At this moment, a lot of purple qi was produced and spread throughout the world, but it would dissipate in an instant. Although most cultivators would meditate and cultivate at this moment and absorb the purple qi at this moment, the amount absorbed was very small. The purple cloud would absorb the purple qi at this moment, stored it, and accumulated it over time to form the purple cloud wood core. A purple cloud wood could not form a purple cloud wood core without tens of thousands of years of accumulation. Even if a purple cloud wood was found and transplanted into the space of the spiritual pearl, it would not be able to form a purple cloud wood core. This was because the spiritual pearl space did not have the conditions to produce purple qi. Moreover, the purple cloud wood was an extremely rare spiritual wood that could not be found casually. The ability to produce the yin-yang purple jade and the purple cloudwood core was a hard condition for a force to become one of the top forces in Beiyuan Xueqi. The three major sects of the state of Zhao did not produce these two items. These two items were crucial for the top forces to maintain their status. They were used to exchange resources with other forces. If Wang Daoyuan asked Daoist Thunderflame for these items, it would make things difficult for Daoist Thunderflame. Thus, he did not ask for it. It was more appropriate for him to ask for a flying boat. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands towards Daoist Thunderflame and said, "To be honest, the Wang clan needs a flying boat to expand the scope of our business. It doesn't have to be of a high grade, as long as it can be used." Daoist Thunderflame wore a difficult expression and said, "Logically speaking, your request is very low. It's easy for me to forge a second-grade flying boat. However, the Divine Weapon Pavilion has an agreement with the three major sects that they are not allowed to provide things to the three major sections. This flying boat is one of the things that is strictly prohibited. So, little friend, please change your request." He couldn't ask for spiritual items for the Violet Palace realm or a flying boat. The Wang clan still had some third-grade magic artifacts in their inventory. A third-grade magic artifact was used to complement the soul of a Violet Palace realm cultivator. Below the Violet Palace realm, only peak foundation establishment cultivators could barely use it. Furthermore, it wouldn't be of much use. There wasn't much use for a third-grade magic artifact. Since he couldn't think of anything that he needed, he said, "Senior, if you have anything that you don't need, just give it to me. Anything that you don't fancy is also a treasure to me." Daoist Thunderflame pondered for a moment before he took out a jade slip and handed it to Wang Daoyuan. "Even if I give you a third-grade magic artifact, you won't be able to use it. There's a magical art here that you can use since you've cultivated a 5-elemental cultivation technique. You should be able to use any magical art." Wang Daoyuan respectfully received the jade slip and scanned it with his spiritual sense. He was shocked when he saw the beginning. He immediately handed the jade slip to Daoist Thunderflame and said, "This magical art is too precious. I don't dare to accept it." Daoist Thunderflame did not take the jade slip and smiled. "Don't worry about it. This Earth Divine Lightning isn't complete and can only be cultivated to the early Violet Palace realm. It can't be compared to the Zhao clan's complete Earth Divine Lightning, which can be cultivated to the peak of the Golden Core realm. This incomplete version of the 5-elemental Divine Lightning is nothing to Golden Core cultivators like me. I'm a Lightning Attribute cultivator and have never learned the 5-elemental Divine Lightning. There's no need for me to learn it. With this, no one below the Violet Palace realm will dare to touch the Wang clan. When you reach the peak of foundation establishment, even early Violet Palace realm cultivators won't dare to touch you. With the Wang clan's safety guaranteed, Daoist invisibility will be able to cultivate in peace. I've also taught the Earth Divine Lightning to a few disciples in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Their talent isn't as good as yours. When you see someone using the Earth Divine Lightning in the future, give them some face. Chapter 208. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "If that's the case, then I'll shamelessly accept it. As for the disciples of the Divine Weapon Pavilion who use the Wutu Divine Lightning, I'm afraid I'll be beaten to a pulp. I'm just a Penta spiritual roots cultivator. How could I be qualified to be courteous to the geniuses of the Divine Weapon Pavilion?" Lei Yan laughed. "Don't belittle yourself. The so-called Penta spiritual roots cultivator trash is just a bunch of ignorant people who think they're infallible. The Divine Weapon Pavilion was passed down from ancient times and existed long before Xueqi was formed. At that time, Penta spiritual roots could be compared to heavenly spiritual roots. Cultivators with balanced Penta spiritual roots could be compared to heavenly spiritual roots cultivators with spiritual bodies. Heavenly spiritual roots were unconventional and their cultivation speed was fast. But when their realm was high, it was also troublesome. It was just that Penta spiritual roots consumed too many resources in the early stages of cultivation. Before the Golden Core realm, their cultivation speed was the worst. But after reaching the Golden Core realm, one would realize that Penta spiritual roots actually had great potential. Especially when breaking through to the Yuanying realm, Penta spiritual roots had a greater advantage than heavenly spiritual roots. Humans had 5 internal organs, which belonged to the 5 elements. Only when the 5 elements were balanced could the body be healthy. The body and soul belonged to yin and yang. Only when yin and yang were balanced could they complement each other. Penta spiritual roots were the easiest to achieve the balance of the 5 elements. The higher the realm of cultivation, the greater the advantage. For example, the creator of the 5 elements Divine Lightning was a Penta spiritual roots cultivator called 5 Thunder Spiritual Master. After breaking through to the Yuanying realm, he comprehended the 5 elements Divine Lightning. The current 5 elements Divine Lightning should be called the Lesser 5 elements Divine Lightning Art. It was deduced by 5 Thunder Spiritual Master using the 5 elements Divine Lightning Art as a template. Of course, the power of a spell was definitely not as strong as a divine ability. But the Lesser 5 elements Divine Lightning Art was also an extremely powerful spell. Now, this lightning art was also incomplete. The Gue Water Divine Lightning was still complete in the Zhao royal family, and Lord Linhai's branch should also have an inheritance. The Fire Divine Lightning was also incomplete in the Wanyang Palace. It was said that it could only be cultivated to the peak of foundation establishment. There are still 2 lightning arts missing. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat puzzled. He asked, "I've always had some doubts about what Senior said." According to the ancient records, Beiyuan Xueqi used to have many cultivators who surpassed Yuanying. Why was it that in the past 10,000 years, no one had been able to form Yuanying? There's also the problem of the spirit body. Is Dao Yin's physique a thunder spirit body? Daoist Thunderflame stroked his long beard and said, "The questions you want to ask aren't really secrets. You'll naturally know once you reach the Golden Core stage." Although the cultivation speed of Penta spiritual roots cultivators was extremely slow, they had an advantage that was similar to that of heavenly spiritual roots cultivators. That was, other than the major realms, there would not be any bottlenecks that were difficult to break through. Moreover, the more balanced the 5 spiritual roots were, the less likely it was for a bottleneck to occur. Now that you've passed the foundation establishment stage, the fluctuations of your divine sense are very strong, and the cultivation method you practice is also quite advanced. Opening the Purple Palace isn't a difficult task. Given that he was proficient in pills, talismans, and formations, resources were not a problem for him. Thus, his chances of forming a golden core in the future were still quite high. There's no harm in telling you these things now. Beiyuan Xueqi got its name because it was located to the north of the Absolute Heaven Abyss. In some ancient books, the Beiyuan calendar was used to record the years. The first year of the Beiyuan calendar was the time when the Absolute Heaven Abyss was formed. After the struggle for hegemony, the various countries no longer used the Beiyuan calendar. Right now, it should be a little more than 70,000 years of the Beiyuan calendar. Before the Absolute Heaven Abyss was formed, this place was a part of a great cultivation world. The Heaven/Mountain Range was also a remnant of the great cultivation world's main spirit vein. After it was cut off by the Absolute Heaven Abyss, it became the Heaven/Mountain Range. As for how the Absolute Heaven Abyss was formed, some ancient records were also unclear. I've also gone to see the absolute heaven abyss. I've only gone less than 100 miles, and encountered danger several times. As for the entire absolute heaven abyss, one couldn't see the end of it. It definitely wasn't something a golden core cultivator could cross. Because the main spirit vein was cut off by the absolute heaven abyss, only the remnant heaven/mountain range was left. Thus, after the absolute heaven abyss was formed, the concentration of spiritual energy in the entire Beiyuan Xueqi had been constantly declining. More than 10,000 years ago, it was already insufficient to support golden core cultivators to form Yuanying. In the beginning, they could still rely on the spiritual items left behind by their ancestors to form Yuanying. 10,000 years ago, the spiritual items were exhausted, and no one was able to form Yuanying anymore. In the recent few hundred years, the concentration of spiritual energy in Beiyuan Xueqi had stabilized, and didn't continue to decline, but for some unknown reason. Even if you know about these things, it's useless. As for the matter of spiritual bodies, you should also know a bit. Spiritual bodies and spiritual roots come from the same source. Spiritual roots are formed by the innate 5 elements qi that a person carries before they're born. People with insufficient innate 5 elements qi would become ordinary people without spiritual roots. A very small number of people have extremely sufficient innate 5 elements qi, and the spiritual roots condensed are not completely exhausted, or unable to completely condense into spiritual roots. When the innate 5 elements qi dissipates to various parts of the body, there's a possibility of forming a spiritual body. This kind of person is much rarer than heavenly spiritual roots. According to the amount of innate 5 elements qi, spiritual bodies are also divided into various grades and grades. Some are strong, some are weak. Spiritual bodies are also divided into innate and acquired. Some people have excess innate 5 elements qi in their bodies, but for some reason, they can't form a spiritual body. Of course, if they can't form a spiritual body, the innate 5 elements qi isn't wasted. This kind of person usually has excellent perception, and their cultivation speed is very fast when they're young. Moreover, their cultivation speed of the 5 elements is much faster than ordinary people. Through some methods they can also cultivate an acquired spiritual body. An acquired spiritual body is far less helpful to cultivation speed than an innate spiritual body. But in terms of perception and cultivation speed of the 5 elements, it's not inferior to an innate spiritual body, and is even stronger. The cultivation method of acquired spiritual body has been lost for a long time. I've only heard of it, but never seen it. There's no rule for the emergence of spiritual bodies. Mortal parents can also give birth to cultivators with spiritual bodies. In addition to spiritual bodies, there's also a special kind of body called treasure body. This kind of body won't increase cultivation speed, and will even slow it down, but it's very suitable for the path of body refinement. As long as the right cultivation method is found and the treasure body's advantages are brought into play, they'll be invincible in fights. Therefore, treasure bodies are also called battle bodies. Mai and Dao Yin's bodies belong to this category. Different from spiritual bodies, the appearance of battle bodies can be traced. Only Yuanying cultivators and above who have cultivated divine abilities have the possibility of battle bodies appearing in their descendants. There's another big advantage of battle bodies. If one can cultivate a suitable cultivation method, the potential of battle bodies can be developed. When one reaches late-stage golden core, they can almost all comprehend minor divine abilities corresponding to battle bodies. It can be said that battle bodies are formed when a minor divine ability is sealed in one's body. Cultivating a suitable cultivation method is just a matter of finding a way to break the seal. Because Yuanying cultivators comprehend different divine abilities, their descendants will also have different battle bodies. Battle bodies are related to bloodlines. Dao Yin and I have the same battle body, which means that we have a common ancestor many years ago. Speaking of which, we're from the same sect. Although the lineage has long been broken, our bloodline has been passed down. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and thanked him. Thank you for clearing my doubts, senior. I've thought through many of my previous doubts. Lei Yan waved his hand and said, Zhao Liang married into the Wang family and Dao Yin became my direct disciple. We're all family, so there's no need to be so polite. I've said so much to you because you act appropriately and have excellent comprehension. I don't want you to be prejudiced by a bunch of idiots and affect your Dao path. It's just that you're too scheming that I don't like. How can a good person like you be so scheming? Dao Yin is better. Although his comprehension isn't as good as yours, He's honest. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile. I'm a penta spirit veins cultivator. I'm not so scheming and wouldn't be where I am today. On the other hand, my second brother isn't so scheming. Why don't you take him in as well? Lei Yan was stunned and said with a smile. You're talking about that kid who cultivated the lustrous golden body art? To be able to cultivate the lustrous golden body art to such a level. His talent is indeed not bad. It's a pity that this old man likes honest people, not stupid ones. Chapter 209. Wang Daoyuan couldn't help laughing. The Thunderflame Taoist's understanding of Wang Daoxing was rather comprehensive. He took out an interspatial pouch and a jade strip and handed it over to Wang Daoyin. I didn't have any good food for you to eat after leaving home, so this jade strip contains some recipes that I've summarized. You can learn how to cook when you're free and rely on yourself. This storage bag is filled with dried meat. It will be used as rations for you and Senior on the way. Cultivate well when you reach the Divine Weapon Pavilion and don't let Senior down. Wang Daoyin received the jade strip and interspatial pouch. Don't worry about it, second brother. I will cultivate well. But I'll be away from home, so I won't be able to take care of my parents. I'll leave it to you and big brother. Wang Daoyuan patted Wang Daoyin's shoulder. Little brother is sensible now. You don't have to worry about me and big brother. The Thunderflame Taoist took out a jade strip and handed it over to Wang Daoyuan. This contains the insights of breaking through to the Violet Palace realm. The Wang clan should have some of the insights left behind by Dao Yu. But the more the better. Wang Daoyuan received the jade strip and cupped his hands. Thank you, Senior. Things like cultivation experience were precious treasures to any force. When they heard that the Thunderflame Taoist was leaving, the Wang clan's foundation establishment cultivators came to send him off. After the Thunderflame Taoist bade farewell to the Wang clan, he flew south with Wang Daoyin. After sending off the Thunderflame Taoist and Wang Daoyin, Wang Daoyuan left a copy of the insights of breaking through to the Violet Palace realm and handed it over to his 12th uncle. With his cultivation speed, it would take at least a few decades for him to use the insights. But his great-grandfather and 5th uncle could use it right now. There was no need for him to manage the clan's affairs, so there was no need for him to stay in the Jade Spring Peak. He also needed to find a place to practice the Earth Divine Lightning that the Thunderflame Taoist left for him. It wasn't suitable for him to practice it in the Jade Spring Peak since it was known for its lethality. It was better to head to the Linji Mountain as soon as possible since there were all sorts of demonic beasts there that could be used to test the lethality of the Earth Divine Lightning. After informing the Grand Elder, he left the Jade Spring Peak and headed for the Linji Mountain. After 2 months, Linji Mountain was still relatively peaceful. The lightning ape was causing trouble everywhere, but none of the surrounding demonic beasts dared to come and seek death. However, without Wang Daoxing and Wang Daoyin, the rank 1 demonic beasts had a much better life. Linji Mountain was still in its early stages. The high-value spiritual herbs had only been planted for a few years, so it was not time to harvest them yet. With the protection of the E-Wood Withering Flourishing Formation and the Wall of Vines, no rogue cultivators would come to seek death. The job of controlling the array formation had already been handed over to 5th brother Wang Daozong. After Wang Daoyuan returned to Linji Mountain, he was too lazy to care about controlling the formation. Instead, he went straight to the cave abode of the Red Fire Ape to study the Wutu Divine Thunder. The complete version of the Lesser 5 Elemental Lightning technique had 9 levels each. The corresponding realm was from the early stage of foundation establishment all the way to the late stage of Aurus Core. Wang Daoyuan only had 4 levels of the Earth Divine Lightning remaining, and the 4th level corresponded to the early stage Violet Palace realm. Although it was incomplete, it was enough to last for a long time. The 3 Gui Water Lightning Pearls given to him by his grandfather were only cast by a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Once he mastered the 3rd level of the Earth Divine Lightning, he would be able to create an Earth Lightning Pearl and keep it as a trump card for his family. Creating a primitive spiritual talisman like the Earth Lightning Pearl wasn't difficult for a Formation Master and Talisman Master. The Earth Divine Lightning was created by Yuanying cultivators on the basis of their abilities. It was very different from ordinary magic arts. Ordinary magic arts only required one to circulate spiritual energy in a different way and control it with spiritual sense. The Earth Divine Lightning was different from ordinary magic arts. Wang Daoyuan followed the method recorded in the Jade Slip and practiced for 2 days. In the end, he was only able to release an earth attribute spiritual energy ball. It was even weaker than the golden blade art. How could it be the 5 elemental lightning that was known for its destructive power? It was more appropriate to call it the earth ball art. Fortunately, the Jade Slip also recorded the method to cultivate the Earth Divine Lightning. The Earth Divine Lightning wasn't like ordinary magic arts that could be released by circulating spiritual energy. One had to visualize lightning in the sea of consciousness and comprehend its power. Only after comprehending the power of lightning and using Earth attribute spiritual energy to simulate lightning arts could one release the true Earth Divine Lightning. The power of the 5 elemental lightning was closely related to the user's understanding of lightning. Comprehending lightning was a bit difficult for ordinary people. After all, lightning attribute cultivators were rare. Where would they go to comprehend the power of lightning? Thunder on a rainy day was very different from lightning arts. Wang Daoyuan wasn't an ordinary person. His younger brother was a lightning attribute cultivator. He cultivated the 5 elemental arts and could also use lightning attribute magic arts. It was just that his speed was a bit slower. Over the years, he had seen the power of lightning. Especially now that he had subdued the lightning ape. The lightning attribute magic arts he knew were all rank 1 and weren't of much use. However, the lightning ape's innate magic arts weren't weak. If he wanted to visualize lightning, all he had to do was bring the lightning ape to cause trouble. All the demon beasts within 100 miles were as obedient as his grandson. There was no need to fight them. If those obedient demon beasts were killed, the spirit vein they occupied would be empty and other demon beasts would come over. The newly arrived demon beasts wouldn't know their place and would cause trouble at Linji Mountain, affecting the development of Linji Mountain. He would leave those obedient demon beasts alive and let them become the outer defense of Linji Mountain. Wang Daoyuan brought the lightning ape to a spirit vein more than 200 miles south of Linji Mountain. This was a middle-grade grade 2 spirit vein and the demon beast occupying it was a middle-grade grade 2 cloud-patterned python. The cloud-patterned python was more than 100 feet long and the lightning ape would have to put in some effort to kill it. Coincidentally, Wang Daoyuan could observe it as well. Without needing Wang Daoyuan's instigation, the lightning ape sensed the aura of other demon beasts and charged up the mountain to fight the cloud-patterned python. Wang Daoyuan released his golden wings and guarded the surroundings while he stood about 200 feet away from the battlefield. He observed the lightning ape's magic arts carefully and felt the power of lightning. The lightning ape was indeed a mutated demon beast with a high-grade bloodline. Its use of lightning attribute spiritual energy was extremely brilliant. Not only could it release lightning balls, but it could also use lightning attribute spiritual energy to form lightning whips to whip the cloud-patterned python. The way it whipped the cloud-patterned python was very similar to Wang Daoyuan's 5-dragon soul-chasing whip. It was indeed the most intelligent demon beast below humans. Its ability to imitate was really strong. However, the power of the lightning whips was still a far cry from the innate magic arts. Wang Daoyuan observed the lightning attribute magic arts while visualizing lightning in his sea of consciousness. After an hour, the cloud-patterned python was covered in wounds. The lightning ape accumulated spiritual energy and released a bowl-sized lightning ball towards the python's head. The cloud-patterned python couldn't dodge in time and was hit by the lightning ball. Its entire head exploded and it died on the spot. Wang Daoyuan also closed his eyes and focused on visualizing lightning in his sea of consciousness. The lightning ape threw the cloud-patterned python's body to the side and copied him. It sat cross-legged and closed its eyes to meditate. In his sea of consciousness, the lightning ball that the lightning ape released with all its strength kept appearing. He felt the power of lightning contained in it. 10 to 10 hours later, he began to condense an earth attribute spiritual energy ball in his hand. The spiritual energy fluctuations in the spiritual energy ball were constantly changing. Sometimes it was peaceful, sometimes it was violent, sometimes it was stagnant, and sometimes it was active. After more than 2 hours, the spiritual energy fluctuations in the spiritual energy ball in his hand were very similar to lightning arts. Suddenly, he released the spiritual energy ball in his hand and hit a tree as thick as an adult's waist 500 feet away. A low and deep voice sounded like muffled thunder. The tree was blown apart and the spiritual energy ball exploded. The yellow spiritual energy spread to the surroundings. After 30 breaths, the entire tree turned into a pile of ashes and the yellow spiritual energy disappeared. This tree was an unranked spiritual plant. The direct damage of the spiritual energy ball was only slightly stronger than the golden blade art. However, the earth attribute spiritual energy had the corrosive effect of the dust returning flame, causing continuous damage. The spiritual energy ball that was released this time could be considered as the earth divine thunder. At least it was somewhat similar to lightning arts. Chapter 2:10. The power of the lesser 5 elements lightning art depended on the cultivator's perception. Thus, not just anyone could cultivate it. Wang Daoyuan's earth divine lightning managed to display the lightning art's characteristics, barely passing the threshold. But he still had a long way to go before the earth divine lightning could be used in battle. Rumor had it that Zhao clan's early foundation establishment cultivator reached great success in the first stage of blooming water divine lightning. His speed was even faster than the average cultivator's golden saber art. From the start to the release of blooming water divine lightning, only half a breath's time was needed. The spiritual power consumption was only twice that of the golden saber art, but the power was 10 times that of the golden saber art. Earth divine lightning and blooming water divine lightning came from the same vein, so there shouldn't be much difference in speed and power. At his current level, earth divine lightning needed a dozen breaths' time, and its power was only slightly stronger than the golden saber art. Who knew how long it would take to reach the rumored level? Even if Wang Daoyuan was proficient in condensing earth attribute spiritual power balls, he still needed to cast them. However, during the casting process, he had to use earth attribute spiritual energy to simulate the lightning technique, which was the most time-consuming. To increase the casting speed, he had to increase his understanding of lightning and reduce the time needed to simulate the lightning art. This was a painstaking effort that couldn't be improved in a short time. Unless there was a cultivator proficient in earth divine lightning, he would be able to quickly increase his understanding. There were 2 important matters in his plan. One was to take over Fallen Dragon Ridge, which required him to reach late foundation establishment. The other was to go to the north of the mountain and search for pure Yin energy. According to Clone Qiyun's memories, there was pure Yin energy in the north of the mountain where Corpse Sage passed away. According to 5 Element Sage's Beiyuan records, there was a place called Hell Valley in the north of the mountain. Deep within Hell Valley was a blooming water underworld spring. The spring water carried a large amount of pure Yin energy as it flowed into an underground river. Part of this underground river flowed out of the surface and into Hell Valley. Hell Valley's Yin energy was dense, gathering a large number of cultivators who walked the path of corpses. But the records in Beiyuan records were from the year 20,000 of the Beiyuan calendar, 50,000 years ago. 50,000 years had passed, and it was hard to say what was going on over there now. However, he still had to try. With the pure Yin Qi, he could make the inky jade lotus bloom and bear seeds. The Patriarch and Grand Elder were not far away from the Pai Zi mansion. Even though it would take a few decades for him to open up the Pai Zi mansion, he still had to make some preparations in advance. Although the inky jade lotus could not directly increase the success rate of opening the Purple Palace, eating more lotus seeds and roots before breaking through could increase the strength of the soul. If the breakthrough failed, his body and soul would be severely injured. With the help of the inky jade lotus, his soul would recover much faster. As for his physical body, it recovered much faster than his soul. If he ate more powerful demonic beasts, he would be able to recover in no time. However, Shanbei also had a great enemy, Qi Yun's old rival, Chen Ji. Qi Yun had obtained the 10,000 Corpse Spiritual Master's inheritance with him 40 years ago. 40 years ago, Chen Ji was already at the pinnacle of the Foundation establishment realm. It was hard to say if he had already established his Violet Palace. When he arrived at Shanbei, he could not reveal anything related to the Wang clan, nor could he easily reveal his clone. Otherwise, if he attracted someone who might be in the Purple Palace realm, not only would his life be in danger, but the Wang clan would also be in danger. Even if Chen Ji did not have the ability to take down the Jade Spring Peak, he would not be able to leave any of the properties in the Wang clan's territory. The most important thing right now was to practice some powerful spells that had nothing to do with the Wang clan. The Earth Divine Lightning was safer. When the Thunder Flame Taoist gave him the Earth Divine Lightning Jade Slip, the Patriarch and the others had not yet arrived. Only the Thunder Flame Taoist, himself, and his younger brother knew that the Earth Divine Lightning had fallen into his hands. When he cultivated, he was also in the Sky Beheading Mountain range. For the time being, there was no fourth person who knew that he could use the Earth Divine Lightning. Furthermore, Chen Ji's main fighting force was the refined corpses that he obtained from the 10,000 Corpse Spiritual Master. Although the Earth Divine Lightning was not a lightning attribute spiritual energy, it still carried the might of lightning. It was very effective against the refined corpses. Just to be safe, it was better to wait until his cultivation reached the 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm, and he could use the Earth Divine Lightning in half a breath's time before heading to Shanbei. In the following days, he had been cultivating on Linji Mountain. 5 years later, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation had reached the 3rd level of the Foundation Establishment realm, but there was still a big gap between him and the 4th level. His attainments and formations had also reached the 2nd level of the upper grade. Although the Earth Divine Lightning had not reached the legendary level, its speed had reached 3 shots in 2 breaths, and its power was about 9 times that of the Golden Blade technique. He had originally wanted to cultivate to the 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm in Linji Mountain. However, bad news came from the Jade Spring Peak. 9th great-uncle and 10th great-uncle had passed away. 9th great-uncle lived for 118 years, while 10th great-uncle lived for 116 years. They could be considered to have died of old age. Wang Daoyuan had been learning how to refine talismans from 9th great-uncle since he was young. In his eyes, 9th great-uncle was almost like his own grandfather. After hearing the news, he immediately flew back to the Jade Spring Peak on his sword. The morning hall for the 2 great-uncles was set up in the ancestral temple. When he returned to the Jade Spring Peak, the clan members had already set up the morning hall. He was taught by 9th great-uncle, so he also had to wear mourning clothes according to the standards of his own grandson. After 7 days, the clan leader personally cremated the 2 great-uncles and buried them in the ancestral grave at the back of the mountain. When 10th great-uncle left, he did not leave any regrets. His lifelong pursuit was to expand the clan's business. In recent years, the clan's business had become more and more prosperous, and it could be said that he had fulfilled his dream. Although 9th great-uncle saw that the clan was becoming stronger day by day, he was also very happy in his heart. However, he still felt regretful that he had not seen the clan's 3rd-level talisman inheritance with his own eyes. This could not be helped, because there was no 3rd-level talisman inheritance for sale on the market. Wang Daoyuan could only comprehend a few 3rd-level lower-grade talismans. After all, it was not a system inheritance, so it was very difficult to truly grasp 3rd-level talismans. Moreover, Wang Daoyuan also lacked the materials to refine 3rd-level talismans. 3rd-level talisman brushes could still be bought at the Divine Weapon Pavilion. 3rd-level spirit ink could not be helped. 3rd-level cinnabar ore could not be found in the entire Qingli County. There might be some in the depths of the Skychop mountain range, but the Wang clan did not have the ability to mine it now. They could also use the blood of 3rd-level demonic beasts, so there was no need to think about it. Even if the entire Wang clan's strength was added together, they would still not be a match for a 3rd-level demonic beast. Not to mention the most precious 3rd-level talisman paper, which required the bark of a 3rd-level spirit tree or the hide of a 3rd-level demonic beast, as well as 3rd-level spirit jade. None of these 3 materials were easy to obtain. As a result, Wang Daoyuan's talisman level had been stuck at the 2nd level of upper grade all these years. Wang Daoyuan was also helpless and could only let 9th great-uncle pass away with regret. Before 9th great-uncle passed away, his last words were for Wang Daoyuan to burn an incense stick in front of his grave after refining a 3rd-level talisman, so that he could be happy over there. When the great elder passed away, the entire Jade Spring Peak had to mourn for half a year. Wang Daoyuan also stayed at Jade Spring Peak for half a year to observe filial piety for 9th great-uncle. From then on, there were no longer any members of the Ji generation in the upper echelons of the Wang clan. However, the new generation had already begun to work for the clan. As early as 10 years ago, there were already members of the Ming generation in the clan. Now the eldest and 2nd son of the Ming generation had already reached adulthood. The eldest, Wang Mingxiang, had joined the Netherworld sect. This was also the custom of the subordinate clans of the Netherworld sect. Every generation had to have one member join the Netherworld sect. The 2nd son, Wang Minghan, had a 6-inch 9-point earth spiritual root as his main spiritual root. He mainly cultivated the earth origin technique that Wang Daoyuan had seized back then. Now that he had just turned 20, he had already reached the 6th level of qi refinement and was working in the mining mountain hall. The Ji generation had withered away, and the Ming generation had risen to prominence. Even though Wang Daoyuan was only in his 50s and still had a long lifespan, he could not help but sigh with emotion. The new generation had replaced the old. Chapter 2:11. Since the two elders had passed away, their positions couldn't be left empty. The business hall was managed by Wang Shouju, the son of the 10th great-uncle. Because Wang Shouju was inexperienced, he didn't become an elder directly. Instead, he was appointed as the chief steward. The position of the first elder was taken over by Wang Daochong, the third brother. The original mining mountain hall managed all the mines and forest farms of the family. There were too many things for one hall to manage. The purpose of the mining mountain hall was to train Wang Daochong. Now that Wang Daochong had become the first elder, it was not suitable for the mining mountain hall to continue managing most of the family's businesses. After the discussion of the elders, the spiritual wood hall was separated from the mining mountain hall to manage the family's forest farms. In the future, the mining mountain hall would only be responsible for managing mining matters. Because there were no suitable elders to manage these two halls, they could only be managed by the chief steward temporarily. The mining mountain hall promoted Wang Shoujing, who had done a good job, to be the chief steward. Wang Shoujing was ranked 17th and was now at the 7th level of qi refinement. For many years, he had been in charge of the unimportant mines of the family. After the reform, he became the steward of the mining mountain hall and had been performing well. The spiritual wood hall promoted Wang Shouzhong, the 19th great-uncle, to be the chief steward. He had been managing the spiritual wood of the south mountain of Linji Mountain for years. After mourning for the 9th great-uncle, Wang Daoyuan was ready to set off for the northern part of Huiyan Mountain. The repair of the wave-chasing flying boat would have to wait. Although Wang Daoyuan was already a second-level upper-grade array master and had the ability to repair the flying boat array, he didn't have experience in this area after all. If he went to repair the flying boat now, the success rate was not high. If the more he cultivated, the worse it would be, the more the loss. Besides, the Wang family didn't have a second-level upper-grade refiner. With his own ability, he might not be able to dismantle the flying boat. Zhao Liang was only a second-level upper-grade refiner. If the core of the flying boat was damaged, he wouldn't be able to repair it. Wang Daoyuan was really worried about asking the Yang family for help. Therefore, the repair of the flying boat would have to wait until Zhao Liang's refining level reached the second-level upper grade or until he had time to study refining techniques in the future. The Wang family wasn't ready to open up a trade route at present, and the flying boat was not urgently needed. Moreover, the Wang family also had a replacement for the flying boat, which was Yun Yi's dual-purpose flying tiger. Now, if he tied a spirit ship with a floating array formation to its tail, it could also function as a flying boat. Although Yun Yi had learned her lesson and needed twice the amount of barbecued meat to pull the boat, the price was still much lower than using the flying boat. There was nothing for him to take care of in the family, so there was no need for him to stay any longer. Although his cultivation was still at Foundation Establishment Level 3, Chen Ji did not know that Qi Yun had fallen into his hands. As long as he didn't expose the soul-extinguishing bell and his doppelganger, Chen Ji would know who he was. Therefore, those with lower cultivation levels would not be in much danger. In order to cause trouble in Shanbei and not implicate the Wang family, Wang Daoyuan left Yun Yi, the Golden Wings, and the Thunder Ape behind. They had been with the Wang family for a long time and were already familiar with each other. Even if Wang Daoyuan was not by their side, they would not harm the Wang family. Yun Yi, in particular, was busy running transportation and earning barbecue meat all day long. She had long become friends with the other clansmen. Moreover, there were many demons in Shanbei. Raising spirit beasts would be viewed as enemies by the demons. Wang Daoyuan informed the new Grand Elder, Wang Daochong, about his travels. He was too lazy to manage the family's affairs, so Wang Daochong did not stop him. He only sent Wang Daoxing to guard Linji Mountain. Wang Daoyuan quietly left Jade Spring Peak and found a secluded place in the sky/mountain range. He used a disguise technique and changed his appearance to Zhao Yunxing's. He changed out of his family's attire and into the attire of itinerant cultivators. Then, he flew north on his sword. The flying sword he used was the Flat Wave Sword. The Shocking Wind Sword was a wind attribute Dharma artifact. It was too eye-catching, so it was better to put it away. Wu Yi was originally from this side, so it was easy for others to see through him if he used the Black Gold Sword. The Flat Wave Sword was slow. It took 14 to 16 hours to reach Guiyan Market. Guiyan Market was in the northern part of Guiyan Mountain. At the entrance of the northern part of Guiyan Valley, It was the place where the Netherworld sect traded with the demons. The goods of the Netherworld sect entered Guiyan Valley from Golden Goose City, passed through Guiyan Valley, and arrived at Guiyan Market. The Netherworld sect had a Zifu disciple overseeing Guiyan Market. The demons had also sent a rank 3 demon beast to oversee this place. The north of Guiyan Mountain had always been inhabited by humans and demons. The area around Guiyan Market was mainly inhabited by humans. There were very few demon beasts. Some of the mountains with spirit veins even had clans and small sections. The 2,000 li north of Guiyan Mountain was not much different from the southern part of the mountain. Although it was not as densely covered with rivers as Qingli County, it was more suitable for farming than Haiyang County, which was mainly grassland. The humans here were still mainly farming. 2,000 li north of the mountain, there was a lack of water. The environment was mainly grassland. The humans living there mainly herded animals. 10,000 li north of the mountain was a desert. There were very few mortals here. Further north was an ice field. There were almost no humans living there. The demon race was very widespread. There were demon beasts scattered all over Guiyan Mountain. 10,000 li west of Guiyan Market, there were many demon beasts gathered in the mountains. There were even high-rank demon beasts. 2,000 li north of the mountain, in the grassland, desert, and ice field, the number of humans was far less than that of demon beasts. High-rank demon beasts could give birth to half-demon offspring. In the north of Guiyan Mountain, half-demons were also a powerful force. Some of the half-demons were close to humans. Some were demons of the same bloodline. Most of the half-demons were neutral. They lived in tribes all over the northern part of the mountain. As long as they had obvious human and demon characteristics, they could be considered half-demons. For example, the head and second head of the Red-Beard bandits did not look any different from humans. However, they did not look like humans. Instead, they looked more like the mane of demon beasts. Furthermore, they had inherited the innate techniques of the demon race. They were also considered half-demons. The scale of Guiyan Market was not small. The entire market had close to 2,000 shops. After all, it was the business center between the northern and southern parts of the mountain. Various forces had shops here. The entire market was shaped like a trumpet. It was narrow in the south and wide in the north. The shops at the southern end of the market were distributed along the cliffs on both sides of the valley. The terrain was narrow. There was only one main road and 2 rows of shops. The further north it was, the more shops there were. The streets were crisscrossed. Wang Daoyuan landed outside the market. Guiyan Market was a place where good and bad people mixed together. It was best not to be too high profile. Guiyan Market was filled with people from all sides. Especially demons. Below rank 3, their intelligence was not as good as normal people and they were especially wild. The managers could not set any strict rules. They only forbade fighting in the market. If they damaged other people's things, they had to compensate. In addition, the market did not allow the sale of living things. Demons were not happy to sell demon beasts. Humans were not happy to sell slaves. They might as well ban all of them to avoid any disputes. Processed beast meat could only come from low-rank spirit beasts raised by humans or half-demons. The other businesses in the market were not much different from the ones in Clear Glass Market. Wang Daoyuan walked into the market. Immediately, a level 3 Qi refinement human cultivator came forward to talk to him. Senior, is this your first time in Guiyan Market? Although my cultivation is low, I have lived here since I was young. If you want to buy something, I can help you find the most affordable shop. This person was a broker. He helped some shops to attract business and collected commissions and a percentage of the shop's profits. Guiyan Market was a place with many forces. It was not like Oasis, where the higher-ups were one family and the brokers were the higher-ups' dogs. The brokers here didn't have much of a background. They were all rogue cultivators with poor cultivation talent and no special skills. They could only rely on their eloquence and familiarity with the market. They pulled in business for the shops and earned some hard-earned money. Wang Daoyuan was unfamiliar with this place. He wanted to stay in Guiyan Market for a while and ask about the northern part of the mountain. He wanted to know about Hell Valley and 10,000 Corpse Daoists' resting place. If he went in without knowing anything, he would easily be cheated to death. Chapter 2:12. In fact, he had Wu Yi and Qi Yun, two clones from Shanbei, so he knew a thing or two about Shanbei. It was just that the situation that Qi Yun knew was already something that happened decades ago. His soul was damaged many times and many of his memories were fragmented. When Wu Yi's cultivation wasn't high, he had become one of Bloodshadow's men and rarely traveled outside. After he reached the Foundation establishment realm, he had been carrying out missions to earn spirit stones. He only knew information related to missions and knew very little about other things. Moreover, there was no such place as Hell Valley in their memories. Since this broker delivered himself to his doorstep, he could get some information from him. Wang Daoyuan had some understanding of Wild Goose Market, but he didn't have any connections here, so he couldn't be as well informed as these brokers. Moreover, no matter how weak a broker was, he was still a local tyrant and had a considerable network of connections in the local area. Sometimes, it would be much better to ask them for help than to do it himself. Wang Daoyuan was looking for a place to stay, so he asked, "Where is there a place to stay?" "I want a safe place." The broker smiled. "I understand Senior's request. Rest assured, I will take you to the publicly recognized safest inn." Wang Daoyuan wanted to understand the situation here as soon as possible, so he chatted a bit more with the broker. He asked, "Which force opened this inn? Why is it recognized as the safest?" Broker answered, "This inn is called Guiyuan Inn. It's run by Guiyuan Sword Sect." Wang Daoyuan knew of the Origin Sword Sect, a vassal of the Zhao clan. After the three great sects defeated the Zhao clan, the Origin Sword Sect suffered heavy losses and disappeared. South of Wild Goose Mountain, there were many sword cultivator inheritances passed down, most of which came from the Origin Sword Sect. For example, Wu Yi's borrowing sword, Heaven Cleaving Sword, innumerable sword art, all came from the Origin Sword Sect. The Origin Sword Sect's founding ancestor was a mid-Violet Palace stage sword cultivator, known as Origin Returning Cultivator. When the Zhao clan was still around, he was rewarded with a third-grade spirit vein for his contribution in stopping the beast tide. Guiyuan Wanderer opened his sect and accepted disciples, establishing the Guiyuan Sword Sect. Later on, the three great sects defeated the Zhao royal family, and Guiyuan Wanderer died in battle. After that, there was no more news about the Guiyuan Sword Sect in Shannon. From Qi Yun and Wu Yi's memories, he learned that the sect leader of the Guiyuan Sword Sect had fled to the north of Mount Huyen with the elite disciples and the core inheritance of the sect. He snatched a lower tier 3 spirit vein and rebuilt the Guiyuan Sword Sect. The mountain gate of the Guiyuan Sword Sect was more than 3,000 miles west of Guiyan City. Most sword cultivators were honest people. Good and bad were all on the surface. Among the major forces north of Mount Huyen, the Guiyuan Sword Sect had the best reputation. Therefore, Guiyuan Inn was naturally the safest and most reliable place to stay. Broker stood there with an embarrassed smile on his face. Wang Daoyuan had been out there for many years, so he naturally knew what this meant. He took out a spirit stone and handed it to Broker, saying, "Take me to return to Origin Inn first. While you're at it, help me find out if there are any shops for rent or sale. I want a clean shop. Don't let a bunch of bullshit happen after the business opens. After it's done, I don't care about 8 or 10 spirit stones." He planned to buy or rent a shop here and open a shop for alchemy. He wanted to buy some special elixirs of Shannon and enrich the variety of spiritual plants in the space of the spiritual pearl. Otherwise, wouldn't this trip to Shannon be in vain? Broker's appetite was much smaller than the one in Oasis. When he heard that there was a reward, he immediately became excited and hurriedly said, "Thank you, Senior. Don't worry, I will definitely find a suitable shop for you. Senior, my name is Fu Cheng. If you have any orders, you only need to tell the people at Return to Origin Inn. I won't guarantee that I will be there at any time." Fu Cheng took the spirit stone from Wang Daoyuan's hand and eagerly led the way in front. Guiyan City was quite lively. Every street was bustling with people coming and going. Most of the people on the street were humans. There were also many half-demons. There were almost no demon beasts running around. In less than half a cup of tea's time, Fu Cheng brought Wang Daoyuan to Return to Origin Inn. Return to Origin Inn's business was pretty good. The hall on the first floor of the inn was the dining area. It was bustling and full of people. When he saw Fu Cheng bringing people in, the inn's greeter immediately came forward and asked, "Senior, are you having a meal or staying in the inn?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Staying in the inn." The greeter asked, "Our inn has a shared bed, a single room. Behind the shop, there are a few independent courtyards. Which one do you want?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "A single room." As a foundation establishment cultivator, living in a shared bed was too cheap. Living in an independent courtyard was too high profile. A single room was better. The greeter brought Wang Daoyuan to the second floor and came to a single room. He handed a token to him and said, "Senior, this is the token that controls the formation of this room. Keep it safe. If you need anything, just use the token to send a message. In addition, this single room costs 2 spirit stones per day. What do you think?" Wang Daoyuan took out 20 spirit stones and handed them to the greeter, saying, "I'll stay for 10 days first." The greeter took the spirit stones and left happily. Wang Daoyuan entered the single room. The room was not big and the furnishings were also very simple. There was only a bed and a table. The single room he was in was right above the hall. The window was right above the entrance of Return to Origin Inn. He opened the window and casually looked outside. He saw a young man walking towards the entrance. This person had the appearance of a young man. His cultivation was at the second layer of foundation establishment. Although Wang Daoyuan did not recognize this young man's face, he felt that he was somewhat familiar. This person was the son of the former head of Green Willow Province, Shizhenbang, Xueqi. As soon as the young man arrived at the entrance, a third-layer foundation establishment young man came out of the shop to welcome him. He welcomed the person who came from outside into the backyard. Wang Daoyuan carefully listened to the conversation between the two. He heard the young man coming out of the shop say, "Brother Shi is finally here. You've made me wait for a long time." The young man with the surname Shi smiled and said, "The journey was long and I was delayed. I hope Brother Li doesn't mind. How is it? Is young Master Zhao still here?" The voice was somewhat familiar. In addition, his surname was Shi. Wang Daoyuan remembered who this person was. Green Willow Province's Shizhenbang's son, Xueqi. The two people's voices became softer and softer. Then, as if they had entered a place with a soundproof formation, he could no longer hear their voices. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat confused. Shizhenbang had just passed away a few years ago. The Shi family had lost its pillar of support. Their days in Green Willow Province should not be easy. At this time, Xueqi was not guarding his home. He should be cultivating in order to make a comeback. Why did they come all the way to the Wild Goose Market, which was so far away from them? He even said he wanted to pay a visit to young Master Zhao. The Shi family had been the leader of Green Willow Province for so many years. In the past, they even had the title of Heong Commandery Duke. Xueqi was the heir of the Shi family. If the Imperial Zhao family had not been overthrown, he would have been Heong Commandery Duke. The sect master of the Beiyuan sword sect was surnamed Li. This person with the surname Li was very likely a descendant of the Beiyuan sword sect master. For the two of them to respectfully address him as young master, his status was definitely not low. In addition, with this surname, there was an 80% chance that he was a descendant of the Imperial Zhao family. The Imperial Zhao family was on good terms with the Beiyuan sword sect. They were also in cahoots with the Shi family of Green Willow Province. Thinking back to the recent 20 to 30 years, Green Willow Province had been recruiting and expanding their strength. They were going to cause trouble. Shizhenbang was dead. The Shi family was weak in Green Willow Province. It was clearly not appropriate to cause trouble now. However, since they chose to cause trouble at this time, there were two possibilities. Either they had more powerful experts and did not lack a peak foundation establishment cultivator like Shizhenbang, or Shizhenbang was not dead at all and released the news of his death to make the underworld sect lower their guard. Chapter 213. After deducing these two possibilities, Wang Daoyuan himself was shocked. No matter what the situation was, the Green Willow State and the Origin Sword sect might stab the Underworld sect in the back. As a result, the Wang family's position became somewhat awkward. Regardless of whether it was the Green Willow State going west or the Beiyuan Sword sect going south, the Wang family was likely to be attacked. Moreover, once they made a move, the Yang family, as an elder of the Nether sect, would definitely fight them to the death. As an ally of the Yang family, how should the Wang family stand? If the Zhao family's hidden forces made a move, they definitely had a certain degree of confidence. The Wang family was an old vassal of the Zhao family, and they had been bullied by the external branch of the underworld sect for many years. Before the Zhao family took action, they would definitely try to draw the Wang family to their side. Once the Zhao family took action, the ghost sect would have to guard against the Wang family's betrayal and force the Wang family to take a stand. It was still unknown how much wealth the Zhao clan had. It was hard to say who would win or lose. If the Wang family stood on the wrong side, it was very likely that they would repeat the mistakes of their ancestor. He had to inform the 12th uncle about this so that he could be prepared. This was to prevent the Wang clan from being at a loss when the two clans started fighting. It was even more impossible for him to inform the Netherworld sect. If he revealed the secret, he would be announcing the Wang clan's side. The Zhao clan's forces were all hidden in places where the three great sects could not easily make a move. Now that the Wang family had revealed the secret, the Netherworld sect could only be on guard at most. They couldn't wipe out the hidden forces of the Zhao family. The forces of the Zhao clan did not dare to touch the Netherworld sect, but did they not dare to touch the Wang clan? Although he wasn't sure how far the Zhao family's preparations had progressed, he was still worried. However, the Netherworld sect was not in a situation where they could not take care of themselves. Even if the Zhao clan was strong enough to defeat the Netherworld sect, they would not choose to attack head-on at this time. Once the Zhao clan displayed their extremely powerful strength, perhaps the three major sects would join forces again. Moreover, the Zhao clan had lost their 10,000 years of foundation more than 300 years ago, and all the experts in the clan had been wiped out. All these years, they could only hide in the deep mountains and forests. Without sufficient resources to nurture experts, their strength would not be too outrageous. The remaining forces of the Zhao clan hidden in various places, as well as the bloodline of Lord Waterfront in Linhai Prefecture. Their overall strength would not surpass the Netherworld sect by much at most. Moreover, there was a high probability that their strength was inferior to that of the Underworld sect. The possibility of taking down a sect was not high, so it was impossible for them to be a match for the three great sections. Therefore, the Zhao clan would definitely wait for the three great sects to fight to the death before making a move. In the last small beast tide, the Underworld sect had used the Wang family's advance warning to trick the 1,000 Spirit sect. The 10,000 Spirit sect had suffered significant losses. They would not try to take down the Underworld sect at this time. On the other hand, the Cruel Sun Palace was not as strong as the Underworld sect, and there was also the threat of the Wei Kingdom in the west. It was impossible for the Cruel Sun Palace to fight to the death with the Underworld sect without the 1,000 Spirit sect taking action. Under such circumstances, the three major sects did not dare to force their way in. Since the three major sects did not fight, the forces of the Zhao clan did not dare to make a move either. The situation in the Zhao country would continue to be stable. The only instability was the conflict between the Underworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace at the border. This conflict had been going on for more than 30 years. Although the upper echelons of both sides had been trying their best to restrain themselves and control the scale of the conflict, it hadn't escalated to the point of an all-out war. However, as the saying goes, no one is good at fighting, and no one is good at scolding. Even a fight between ordinary people could get angry and eventually blow up, let alone a conflict between two major forces. Many great wars started from small matters that gradually escalated. The two sects had been fighting on a small scale for 30 years. Their anger should not be small. It was very likely that they would directly fight because of a sudden incident. Even if there was no sudden incident, the forces of the Zhao clan could forcefully create one. It was hard to say how long the situation in the Zhao country would be stable for. Wang Daoyuan only hoped that it would be stable for more than 30 years. 30 years was enough for him to take down the fallen Dragon Ridge and move a portion of his clansmen to the Five Elements Mystic Realm. At that time, no matter how the situation in the Zhao country changed, the Wang clan would be able to sit on the fishing platform. Although he had to inform the 12th uncle of this matter as soon as possible, there was no rush. After all, he was still staying in the territory of the Gui Yuan sword sect. It was not safe to send a message. He patiently stayed in the Gui Yuan Inn for 3 days. Then, Fu Cheng sent a message. Knowing that Wang Daoyuan wanted to open a shop, Fu Cheng immediately activated his network to look for shops that were interested in selling or renting out. There were many shops opened by rogue cultivators in the Gui Yen market. It was common for shops to close due to poor management. Fu Cheng quickly found a few shops that were interested in renting out or selling. After finding them, he immediately informed Wang Daoyuan to check out the shops. Wang Daoyuan immediately walked out of the inn. Fu Cheng was waiting for him at the entrance. Seeing him come out, Fu Cheng quickly bowed and said, "Senior, I've already contacted a few shops that are interested in renting out or selling. I'll bring you to take a look." Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "Lead the way." Fu Cheng brought him north. As they walked, he asked, "Senior, what kind of shop do you want to open? In this market, different businesses are suitable for different locations. Also, try to avoid the shops of the various factions. For example, the Beiyuan sword sect could be considered a medium-sized force. There were more than 10 shops near the Beiyuan Inn. They were all businesses of the Beiyuan sword sect. These shops sell ores, spirit wood, magic tools, spirit talismans, pills, formation discs, spirit grains. There are also restaurants and inns. They do all kinds of businesses. There are even brothels. If Senior is interested, you can go and have some fun." Wang Daoyuan pretended to be angry and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Continue talking about the shops." Fu Cheng was shocked and quickly returned to the topic. "The shops of the other factions are mostly in the same situation. They do many kinds of businesses in one place. If you open a shop near the shops of these factions, no matter what kind of business you do, you'll be stealing the livelihood of these factions. They might try to trip you up. Even if they don't play dirty and compete openly, a shop opened by a rogue cultivator will find it hard to compete with those large factions. So, if you want to do business, it's best to stay away from the shops of these factions." Hearing these words, Wang Daoyuan felt very strange in his heart. The Beiyuan sword sect was a sword cultivation sect. Sword cultivators were all one-track minded. They were not interested in things that had nothing to do with the sword. The Beiyuan records of the 5-element spiritual master recorded the situation of many sword sections. The businesses of these sword sects were usually inseparable from the sword. Their main business was ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement. These businesses were all related to the sword. But this Beiyuan sword sect was more special. Not only did they sell ores, spirit wood, and magic tools, but they also did not forget about pills, talismans, and formations. They also sold spirit grains, opened restaurants, and even brothels. Opening a brothel was something that most factions who wanted to save face would not be willing to do. It was not embarrassing enough. The Beiyuan sword sect was a sword cultivation sect. They should be the most upright and plain-spoken. Why did they even do the flesh business? Wang Daoyuan could not understand. He asked Fu Cheng, "Isn't this Beiyuan sword sect a sword cultivation sect? A sword cultivation sect should only do ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement business. Why does this Beiyuan sword sect do all kinds of business? Other than ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement, when did they start doing all the other businesses?" Fu Cheng smiled. "Senior, you are really experienced and knowledgeable. At first, the Beiyuan sword sect only did ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement business. Starting from 30 years ago, the Beiyuan sword sect started to do other businesses. At first, they only sold spirit grains. Later on, they slowly started to do pills and spirit talismans business. In the last 10 years, they started to do formations, restaurants, and brothels business." Wang Daoyuan's heart sank. This time was just right when the Oasis started to recruit people. The Beiyuan sword sect should have colluded with the Oasis long ago. They should have been preparing for 30 years. Chapter 214. If the Zhao clan wanted to take back the state of Zhao from the 3 major sects, Qi disciple cultivators wouldn't be of much use in such a battle. The Qi disciple cultivators recruited by the Green Willow continent had to reach foundation establishment before they could become cannon fodder. The Green Willow continent's method of expanding their power was a bit like panning for gold. Winning by quantity, they could always find a few talents. As for the eliminated sand, it wasn't as if they were completely useless. There were rich resources around the Green Willow continent, but there were too many demon beasts and no one went to exploit them. Those rogue cultivators attracted to the Green Willow continent, even if they weren't worth cultivating, they could still earn a lot of resources by risking their lives around the Green Willow continent. The upper echelons of the Green Willow continent used brokers to sell pills, talismans and other resources at high prices to exploit them. The upper echelons then used these benefits to obtain pills, talismans and other resources from the Wang clan and other clans to cultivate the gold they had found. The Green Willow continent's model was based on the Xueqi clan's dominance of the Green Willow continent and the rich resources around it. In the vicinity of the Guiyuan market, the Guiyuan sword sect was only a second-rate power and their sect leader was only an early-stage Zifu realm cultivator. The overall strength of the Guiyuan sword sect was even weaker than the underworld sect. It was far inferior to the Xueqi clan's status in the Green Willow continent and couldn't rely on exploiting rogue cultivators to obtain resources. Furthermore, the environment in the northern part of the mountain wasn't as good as the Green Willow continent and resources were lacking. The Green Willow continent's method of cultivating talents obviously couldn't be implemented in the northern part of the mountain. The two walked north along the main road in front of the Guiyuan Inn. Not long after, they saw a very busy shop. On the door of the shop, there was a signboard with the words, Guiyuan Sword Hall, written on it. Wang Daoyuan asked, "What does this Guiyuan Sword Pavilion do?" Fu Cheng quickly answered, "Senior, this Guiyuan Sword Pavilion is also a shop opened by the Guiyuan Sword Sect. But it's a bit strange. This Sword Pavilion doesn't seem to want to earn spirit stones. It only teaches rogue cultivators spells and cultivation experience. If a rogue cultivator is talented, the Guiyuan Sword Sect will take him in and make him a disciple of the Guiyuan Sword Sect. As you know, rogue cultivators don't have a good life. Without a system of inheritance, it's hard to learn the various arts of cultivation. Rogue cultivators elsewhere can obtain resources by killing demon beasts, but they can't kill demon beasts here. Rogue cultivators could only make a living by picking herbs and doing manual labor, not to mention practicing magic. The Guiyuan Sword Sect imparts Dharma spells and cultivation experience to itinerant cultivators for free. In addition, if one has good aptitude, they can become a disciple of the Guiyuan Sword Sect. This attracts many itinerant cultivators. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was suddenly enlightened. The Guiyuan Sword Sect's method of nurturing talents was to walk the path of the elite. Imparting Dharma spells and cultivation experience to rogue cultivators did not cost much, and they could pick out good seedlings from the rogue cultivators. In addition, the Guiyuan Sword Sect had a very good reputation. When doing business, reputation was also a form of capital. Wang Daoyuan asked, "When did this Guiyuan Sword Pavilion start operating?" Fu Qing thought for a moment and said, "It's been about 30 years since the Guiyuan Sword Sect started the business of spirit grains and talismans." Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, "Sure enough. The Zhao clan's preparations began after Shi Zhenbong snatched the Foundation establishment pills and attracted the itinerant cultivators. The conflict between the Underworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace also started more than 30 years ago. From the looks of it, it was very likely that the Zhao clan deliberately stirred up trouble in order to divert the attention of the three major sects and make it easier for them to accumulate strength in secret. If they had just started accumulating strength more than 30 years ago, there should still be a long time before they made a move. Unless the Zhao clan nurtured subordinates like Wang Daoyuan did to himself. Elixirs, spirit fruits, spirit beast meat and other cultivation resources should be consumed as much as possible. Otherwise, most cultivators would not be able to grow in a short 30 years. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan was no longer in a hurry. Even another 30 years might not be enough to nurture a sizable batch of Foundation establishment cultivators. The Wang clan did not want to be a minister of the emperor. They only wanted to protect their clan's foundation. Right now, they did not have the right to sit on the fence. If they were too weak, they would be courting death. If they dragged on for a few more decades, the Wang clan would be able to watch the show in peace after transferring all the mortals in the clan. After the victor was decided, it would not be too late to support the winning side. He was afraid that if the Zhao clan did not secretly fan the flames, the Netherworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace would not be able to suppress the flames and a war would break out in advance. At that time, it would be too late for all the factions to cry. Wang Daoyuan decided to open a shop near the Guiyuan Sword Sect first and then slowly inquire about the Guiyuan Sword Sect. Soon, Fu Cheng brought him to a shop that sold elixirs called the Li Clan's Elixir Shop. This shop was more than half a kilometer northeast of the Guiyuan Inn. The shops in the Guiyuan market were relatively large, with an average of a few acres. Therefore, the distance of half a kilometer was considered relatively close. Wang Daoyuan was more satisfied with this place. It was convenient to observe the Guiyuan sword sect's shop, and it would not affect business because it was too close. Although he had already determined his target, he still followed Fu Cheng and walked around the other shops that were interested in selling. He could also understand the situation in the Guiyuan market. After walking around, the two returned to the Li clan's elixir shop. The shopkeeper of the Li clan's elixir shop was an itinerant cultivator. He was at the 6th level of foundation establishment and was about 150 years old. After working hard in the Guiyuan market for many years, he wanted to earn more spirit stones and strive to open the Violet Palace. Unfortunately, his alchemy skills were not up to standard. After working hard for many years, the spirit stones he earned were barely enough for his usual cultivation. He was less than 100 years away from the upper limit of his lifespan. There was no hope for him to cultivate to the peak of foundation establishment. Rather than wasting his life here, it was better to find a spiritual mountain and start a family. Wang Daoyuan haggled with the shopkeeper and finally spent 2,000 spirit stones to buy the shop. It also came with many Tier 1 spirit herbs and a small number of Tier 2 spirit herbs. Because buying and selling a shop in the Guiyuan market did not require any procedures. The shopkeeper gave the shop's deed and the defensive formation control token to Wang Daoyuan, and the shop's handover was completed. The shop's defensive formation was a low Tier 2 spirit herb. After Wang Daoyuan closed the formation, he entered the shop. The shop's layout was that of an ordinary shop, and there was nothing special about it. The backyard was more than 2 acres in size. There was a pill refining room and an immortal's cave. The rest of the area was opened up into spirit fields, and there were some Tier 1 spirit herbs planted in the spirit fields. He gave Fu Cheng 10 spirit stones for his hard work and sent him away. Then, he began to decorate the shop. In fact, it was just a matter of changing the signboard. He took down the old signboard, scraped off the words on it, and wrote, Huang's Pill Shop. Wang Daoyuan planned to change his name to Huang Wanli. After he was done, he might be able to scam the Huang family. After settling down, he also used a high-grade communication jade talisman to send a message to the 12th uncle, reminding him to make early preparations. The shop did not have any opening ceremony, so the business was not very good. He refined a cauldron of Tier 2 spirit herbs every day, which was enough to sell for 7 to 8 days. A month after the shop opened, a middle-aged cultivator at the 3rd level of foundation establishment came to the shop. This person wore a white robe with 3 small golden swords embroidered on the cuffs. He also carried a long sword on his back. This was the standard attire of the Guiyuan sword sect. Wang Daoyuan asked, May I know if Dao Yu is here to buy pills or sell spirit herbs? The person smiled and said, I'm from the Guiyuan sword sect. I'm not here for pills or spirit herbs. I'm here for Dao Yu. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, You're here for me? I only sell pills here, not people. The sword sect cultivator smiled and said, My Guiyuan sword sect is currently recruiting pill refiners. As long as Dao Yu is willing to join my sect, you can state your conditions. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.